It would have its own set of rules. It doesn't.
I've got to go to that list then. Okay.
But I don't believe so.
Yeah, I was going to say, my master.
Actor, how are you? Excellent. Thank you. Good. Made it through the rain, huh?
Yeah.
Hey.
It's always interesting with the big groups.
Their own address?
No, why do they use
This is the list that you have from Norwalk.
Oh yeah, you can always ask for the rule.
Attendees that we have from Brian Mcmahon and National Honor Society. The attendees in the office
Right.
in the
So legislative bodies have to be concerned.
Okay. Can you give me those updated copies? I didn't. Alright, so here's NHS. Well, you need it under FOI. Corporate goes first.
do them in any order.
So the list of these. No, but the ads to the agenda. Okay.
I would recommend
Add an item to the agenda, add a meeting. So less than 24 hours notice, you need it. I'll prove it to you. Alright, I'll prove it. How about paw prints on this, or it's just... No, I can pull it up on the internet very easily. I got it.
I do have blank certificates if you need anybody.
Okay, does Mike sign those?
Mike has the ones.
I'll call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item of business will be Spotlight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 items in the spotlight tonight. The first one is the Norwalk High Paw Print Award. So, from the American Scholastic Press Association Award, that's what they received, the Norwalk Board of Education is proud to honor the Norwalk High School Paw Print for its recognition by the American Scholastic Press Association. With over 900 schools submitting publications to this national competition, the Paw Print stands among the top ranks of high school newspapers with a second-place award for Best Overall Paper. From politics to news, arts and entertainment, sports and opinion, the NHA's Paw Print keeps students and faculty informed on relevant and timely topics. The paper is published monthly with contributions from journalism students. Recent articles included a feature story on study halls and credits, AP and final exams, ROTC, senior internships, and a teacher spotlight. A 2-page photo spread on Norwalk High's own production of The Addams Family followed movie reviews of A Quiet Place and Love, Simon. Opinion pieces addressed everything from sushi to Syria to the color red. Spring sports and student artwork rounded out the issue. The Paw Print truly tracks the pulse of the school. The Norwalk Board of Education congratulates co-editors-in-chief Hannah Keyes and Elise Sullivan, as well as editors Georgie Villalobos, Brianna Cortez, Trevor Dalton, and Alexis Morelli. The outstanding rating by the American Scholastic Press Association is a testament to your hard work, integrity, and professionalism. Because producing a regular publication takes a tremendous team effort, we also congratulate all the staff writers and photographers who contribute each month. To quote from a recent editorial by the Paw Print editors-in-chief, "There are many moving parts involved in the production of the newspaper, and everyone in the class plays an important role." We also recognize Paw Print advisor Rob Carl, whose true dedication to creating a newspaper that all of us can be proud of is evident in every issue. Mr. Carl has taught journalism and served as advisor for the paper for the entire 12 years that the Paw Print has been published. Congratulations to all the Paw Print for continuing the tradition of excellence in how the Bears make their mark. Congratulations. With that, we would like to recognize some individual contributors, and the first on board is Hannah Keyes. Please come on down, Hannah.
Nice work, Hannah. Hi, Hannah. Congratulations.
Hey, Hannah. Well done.
Hannah, well done. Hannah, wait 1 second.
Right, there you go.
Out off the press.
Can I see a copy? Thank you.
Next up is Elise Sullivan.
Congratulations, Elise.
Congratulations, Elise.
Well done.
Well done, Elise. There you go. Next is Jorge Villalobos. Jorge's not here. We'll hold on to his award. Sorry. Next is Brianna Cortez. Brianna's not here. Okay. Trevor Dalton. Alexis Morelli. Okay. Mr. Rob Carl.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Read it all the time.
Congratulations, Rob.
Well done. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Would you give them to? Okay, thank you.
Amazing things.
Okay, thank you. One last round of applause for the podcast. Okay, next up, we'd like to recognize the National Honor Society from both Brian McMahon and Norwalk High Schools. The Board of Education is pleased to honor the 2018 National Honor Society seniors of Brian McMahon High School and Norwalk High School. The National Honor Society is the nation's premier organization established to recognize outstanding high school students. More than just an honor roll, the National Honor Society serves to recognize those students who have demonstrated excellence in the areas of scholarship, service, leadership, and character. These characteristics have been associated with membership in the organization since its beginning in 1921. Community service works both in groups as well as on an individual basis, and remains a central pillar of National Honor Society membership. This year's honor students participated in numerous service projects throughout the community. Highlighting Brian McMahon, one of the largest student organizations at Brian McMahon High School, the BMHS National Honor Society currently has 53 seniors and 50 juniors. This year, Brian McMahon members have contributed over 540 hours of service to their school community. This is primarily accomplished through RANSAC. That's a peer-to-peer tutoring program held 3 days a week after school in the Guidance Center. Students also privately tutor younger learners. This senior year's class piloted a tutoring center in the library during school hours, and the rising senior class will continue to work to make this new tutoring center a success. Brian McMahon National Honor Society members have also volunteered during graduation, academic affairs, and college nights, and worked at the New England Music Festival. These students exemplify the four tenets of the National Honor Society: scholarship, leadership, service, and character. Also in here is the Kevin Ite chapter of the National Honor Society at Norwalk High School. Norwalk High School's Kevin Ite chapter of the National Honor Society has over 100 student members. Each year, members collectively spend approximately 4,000 hours volunteering. The chapter sponsors 2 Red Cross blood drives and supports the Norwalk Nagarot Sister City projects in Nicaragua. Over the past 4 years, students independently raised nearly $15,000 to subsidize tuition for elementary school kids. Additionally, Norwalk High School members support a variety of groups during the school's annual service week, including Brown, B-R-O-W-N, Air Force Junior ROTC, Key Club, Seniors Helping Seniors, Future Business Leaders of America, and more. Throughout the academic year, NHS members serve as mentors and tutor peers at Norwalk High School, as well as support programs at West Rocks, Nathan Hale, and Narragansett schools. Members assist in a wide array of organizations in the community at large, including church groups, sports teams for younger kids, senior citizen housing, and the Norwalk Public Library. At both schools, members of the National Honor Society demonstrate leadership by example, consistent academic excellence, and most importantly, honorable character. On behalf of the entire Board of Education, we congratulate the graduating members of both the Brian McMahon National Honor Society and the Kevin M. Ite chapter at Norwalk High School. We celebrate their accomplishments and wish them all best for the future. Thank you. With that, we would like to honor and recognize some individuals. First up from Norwalk High, we have Katerina Kiriaskos.
Good work, Katerina. Good luck.
Well done, Katerina. James Roberts.
There you go. You're welcome.
I'll recognize quickly James Roberts, who's not in attendance as well. Next up is Hannah Keys.
Oh, twice in one night, huh? Good for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. We need to get you a paper card.
And also advisor Patrick O'Shaughnessy. Is that Kevin A? Yeah.
Thank you.
Brenda's gonna
Create these.
yeah.
Pat, we'll miss you. It's like those knees are holding up well, Pat.
Barely.
We're still working on it.
I would ask at this time, we had a short list of attendees. If there's any seniors from Norwalk High that were also part of the National Honor Society senior class, please announce yourself and come on up for an award. Diana. Yeah. Elise Sullivan. Marissa Swanson. Ryan Skelly. Aaron Hibbridge. Matisse Arlahug. Afreen Bahora. Asim Bora. Control Club. Kevin Kayla. And last but not least, Mr. Reginald Roberts. Thanks, Reg. Is Adam Reynolds here? We'd like to recognize Adam. Thanks, Adam. Okay, now for Brian McMahon. First up is co-president Jude Ikoy.
Congratulations.
Well done, Jude. Next, we have Amelia Becker. Well done, Amelia. That's co-president Amelia Becker. Great job.
Congratulations, Amelia.
Vice President Gabriella Duran. Secretary Casey Keenan.
Nice work. Congratulations, Casey. Well done, Casey.
Agron Jamajli. Well done.
Great job. Congratulations. Good work.
Savannah Buzzio. Good job, Savannah.
Well done. Congratulations. Good work.
Congratulations.
Are there any other members of the Brian McMahon senior class in attendance who have not been recognized? If you are, please come up. Congratulations. And next we have Advisor Valerie McNamara. And a great job by first-year principal, Mr. Scott Hurwitz. And that concludes tonight's spotlight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So now we get, we're going to go into public comments. Obviously, for those of you who won awards, feel free to depart as we will be going through our lengthy agenda. But public comments, do you have the list, Brian?
I do not have a
Hold on,
list.
I'll get
Does someone have a list?
Mr. Carl, let's give that to him.
Dr. Adamowski, would you mind passing one of those water bottles?
Oh, here, take
Absolutely.
Mike, you got a couple of sodas I could have?
mine. What would you like first?
Hey, okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight's public comments. Please step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Please keep your comments cordial and relevant to topic. The first up is Laura Dufort.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Dufort, and I live at 186 East Rocks Road. I just want to say I'm a huge proponent of the Norwalk public school system. My husband and I speak very highly of our children's experiences through the years. My son is currently a senior at Norwalk High School, and he's going to Cornell University this fall. So congratulations, Norwalk Public School. We're very proud of the education he received at the high school. And we know he'll be well prepared for college. Our daughter's a sophomore at the high school, and she has similar goals as her brother. So the reason I'm here tonight is I am a little concerned about the recent calculation of the ranking system that we've heard about. Let me just say the NECA program is fantastic. We love the students. They should be commended for all their accomplishments. I'm just bringing this up because this is all new information to many of the students and the parents, and it's catching us a little bit off guard. The credits and the rankings were changed after the college transcripts were sent out in November. I just want to point out how the two programs are weighed differently and how NECA is different than an AP or an IB course. A student at the Norwalk High School taking an AP English course receives 1 credit for the year. A NECA student who is taking English for the year is receiving 2 credits because it is counted as a semester each. So this is double the amount of credits for the same year's work. A NECA student can do what they call double dip. In NECA, you can take a biology course at the high school and a biology course at the college level in the same year. They are earning 2 credits. Norwalk High School students are not allowed to double dip. They can't take, say, for instance, English 3 and English 4 in the same year. It's just not allowed. So this is just a demonstration of an unequal advantage to the NECA students. Also, Norwalk High students can take college credits, but they are not included in the transcript. The college for the NECA student, however, is included in the high school transcript. So just when I found out about this myself, I was doing a little bit of research. I'm very visual. I wanted to see student A, student B. I did some calculations. So because the extra credits are able to be earned, it's very interesting to note at the end of the junior year, a NECA student can earn between 32 and 35 credits. This is not even possible for a junior at Norwalk High School. The average Norwalk High School junior ends the year with between 21 and 24 credits.
30
and
seconds,
that's
please.
If they're an overachiever, taking all the extra band credits. A senior year NECA student will be graduating with between 33 and 40 credits. And once again, that's not even a possibility for a Norwalk High School student. They are about 28 credits. So I just think it's imperative that our students compete on a level and fair basis. A student at the Norwalk High School program willing to take the most challenging courses, receiving all A's, can't compete with a similar student in the NECA program because they can't nearly earn as many credits.
That's 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Aaron Americ.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aaron Americh. I live at it's okay, 16 Bob White Drive. So I'm also here to address the ranking system. I have been a Norwalk High student since day one, being a part of the varsity soccer team for 4 years and participated in various Norwalk High activities such as the marching band. For the first 2 years of my high school, career, I was taking all classes at Norwalk High School, and I had a variety of Norwalk High School teachers. But I am also a part of the NECA program. I've seen the petition that has, I'm sure you've seen, talking about the ranking system. And I think it has highlighted some of the wonderful work that we have done in the NECA program, but I think it also shows some falsehoods about the NECA program. So when I joined the NECA program, I had to apply, and that was an availability to everyone in the town of Norwalk, regardless of where you are in the school district. So the NECA program is a part of what they call as a P-TECH model, which includes a partnership with a college and a company, ours being IBM and the Norwalk Community College. When first joining the program, we had a summer academy, which we had to take multiple placement tests. And then as soon as freshman year started, I started fulfilling my Norwalk High School requirements by taking double math and double English, as well as taking an online history course with an included freshman full course load. And so in order to complete my degree in the expedient 2 years, so to shave off the 2 years, I had to take extra classes, which includes sophomore year I took 10 classes instead of the regular 8 that was offered to Norwalk High School students, as well as taking college level courses during the summer, which is comparable to the rigor of an AP course. Our grading process for these classes that were comparable were not the same as Our grading process didn't include homework or quizzes or participation. In the multiple English and math courses, your only grade is based on the 5 tests that you achieve within the class, and that's your only grade for the class. While students enjoyed break at both NCC and Norwalk High School, we were still taking classes during those periods because Norwalk High School and NCC are not in overlapping periods. I have taken a majority more classes and covered more curriculum to achieve a high school diploma and an associate's degree.
Okay,
This past semester,
30 seconds, please.
I was taking 4 Norwalk Community College classes, running past the Norwalk High School hours, as well as taking a physics class every other morning. Due to that fact, I had to give up on other activities such as sports in the winter and spring season. And while these courses were just recently weighted, when I applied to colleges, they were not. So my ranking of a 62 when I applied to colleges, compared to now of being in the class ranking of a 37, could have severely affected my college decisions.
Okay, Aaron, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Daniel De Menendez. I'm sorry, De Menendez. Please say that right for me.
You're fired from all names.
All right, so my name is Daniel De Menendez. Close enough. No worries. I live on 3 Whitfield Court, and I'm a junior at Norwalk High School and the Norwalk Early College Academy. So I'm here to also talk about the valedictorian situation, and as this continues to gain much momentum, we've been told by Norwalk High students that we don't deserve the privilege of being part of their ranking system. This belief has stemmed from the idea that NECA students have an unfair advantage due to the multitude of college classes that we have registered for. The college classes we have sacrificed our summers, sports, social lives, and normal high school experiences to complete. We have taken a variety of NCC classes, far more rigorous than any of an AP class, in half the time, and with the lack of support teachers. Despite that, we have prevailed and even managed to excel. The belief that our classes should be weighed as a semester class, in spite of the fact that we are finishing what is essentially a full year worth of work in a semester, is hurtful, malicious, and belittling. Everyone was and has been with the same opportunity. All the current students had the same chance to be accepted into the program. This year, NECA has enrolled more than 100 students. Our big class so far, our senior, junior, and sophomore classes each have less than 70 students. This illustrates the fact that we could have accepted more students, but there wasn't enough interest to submit an application. If you choose to not apply, then you believe the program wasn't right for you. NHS students would have sacrificed the same amount of time to UConn or NCC classes, so we should not be penalized for making the decision to spend more time on our course load. What needs to be addressed is that NECA is only graduating 12 scholars with an associate's degree. Therefore, separating the class ranks creates a discrepancy. The majority of NECA scholars have only taken a few, if any, college courses. Therefore, these remaining students would be at a disadvantage. If the ranking of the students was to be separated, it would make both groups' efforts less impressive. To be first out of 400 students and first out of 300 are very different accomplishments. Norwalk High students can compete with NECA students as seen by the junior class ranking. Norwalk High students currently hold the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th spot respectively. One last point. Early last year, NECA was trying to vote on a mascot. The idea was shut down by administration because they said that NECA and NHS cannot be separated and they are one school. I agree with this decision because I'm a Norwalk High School Bear, and if we don't have a right to our own NECA mascot, then we should not have our own NECA ranking. We are one school and it should stay as such in all academic aspects. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Daniel. Next up is Chaz Bethel Brescia.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chaz Bethel Brescia. I'm a senior at Norwalk High School. I live at 17 Apple Tree Lane. I'm also here to talk about the ranking situation and the newly imposed system of GPA calculation concerning the NECA program, and why comparing NECA directly with the traditional Norwalk High School program isn't equitable. I want to explain how I realized this change was made in the first place. As a diligent student, all 4 years of high school, I've made a point of checking my transcript throughout the year, at least once every couple months, to keep track of my academic progress. Throughout my entire college application process, spanning from September to early January, I was ranked 2 in the class, yet when I checked my transcript again in mid-March to start applying for scholarships, I had dropped to 3. Never before had I seen a shift in rank midway through the year before any full year courses had been completed, which indicates that a change in weight of previously completed courses or an addition of courses previously not counted had been made. To make such a change midway through a graduating class's final year without the notification of students or parents is frankly quite concerning. As a regular track Norwalk High School student, if I enrolled in any college course, whether at NCC, UConn, or Yale, the credit would not contribute toward my high school diploma, nor would it show up on my transcript or factor into my GPA. This has always been Norwalk High School's policy. My peers in NECA, while taking college courses, some of which are summer courses, culminating in an associate's degree, are earning their college credit while simultaneously counting these courses toward their high school diploma, and as of recently, receiving an extra quality point as a student would for an AP course. Not only do regular Norwalk High School students lack access to these courses in our regular academic program, but even if students take the initiative to enroll in a summer course or NCC course on their own accord, it will not contribute toward their high school credit or GPA calculation as it does for NECA students. The inequity lies in the fact that Norwalk High School students can take a maximum of 8 credits toward their high school diploma per year, while it is possible for NECA students to garner upwards of 12 course credits in a single year. This gives NECA students access to a number of 5.0 weighted courses that is impossible for a traditional track student to fit in their schedule, and thus is the reason why the 2 pools need to either be ranked separately or for these NCC courses to be removed from GPA calculation as they would be for a traditional track student. Yes, NECA students should absolutely receive recognition for taking these college courses, but these courses are not accredited by the College Board, nor are they listed in the yearly manual, which lists all the courses that Norwalk High School has to offer. The recognition that these students receive comes with their associate's degree that they're earning, but for additional AP level weight to be offered on top of that puts traditional track Norwalk High School students at a disadvantage when both groups of students are placed in the same pool. It is most equitable that both pools be evaluated separately. I know that some feel as though this issue is not worth resolving for the graduating class of 2018, but we don't believe this. There's still time to look at the situation more closely and balance out the glaring inequities. I started a petition last night at 9 p.m., which has since attained 334 signatures in less than 24 hours and has garnered responses from both students and parents, some of those students being in NECA themselves. Okay, we ask that you consult. Thank you.
Last on the list is Katerina Karioskos.
My name is Katerina Karaiskos. I live on 15 Linden Street. I'm a senior at Norwalk High School. I am president of both the National Honor Society and the Spanish National Honor Society. I am a 2-year captain of the girls varsity volleyball team. I am a senior leader of Bears Peer Tutoring and Brown Community Service Club. I am a 4-year member of the orchestra and a 3-year member of the chamber singers. I am a link crew leader who helps freshmen with their transition into high school, and up until 2 months ago, I was valedictorian of my graduating class. Why the sudden change? I lost my slot because of the currently proposed method of calculating the NECA students into the traditional ranking system. This inequitable shift promotes an unfair learning environment that derails the futures of the overwhelming majority of the NHS student body. NHS students receive an additional quality in their grades and 1 full credit for a year-long AP course. NECA students receive the same credit and grade weight for a semester-long course. This allows for an unjust doubling of for the calculation of GPA and thus class rank for NECA students. As a result, it is mathematically impossible for a Norwalk High School student to rank higher than a NECA student taking a similar course load. If you go through the 2017-2018 Norwalk Public School Handbook Program of Studies, on page 16 there is a grading system chart which designates the grading methodology. Nowhere in this chart are college courses included. It includes the default grade, honors, and AP. There is also a class rank explanation sheet that all counselors hand out during meetings, and that gets sent to colleges. Once again, no mention of college courses being included. Some might say that college courses may be considered equivalent to AP courses, but if this is the case, why are core NHS students who take NCC courses on their own accord denied the same kind of GPA boost? Additionally, the NECA courses taken at NCC go towards the students' associate's degrees, not their GEDs. Why then are these courses factored into the traditional high school ranking pool? Some have argued that this grading system has always been established, and this particular outcome was simply an unexpected yet inevitable side effect of the pre-existing ranking methodology. It makes sense that suddenly at the exact same time, every core NHS student's rank has dropped several points. If this system has always been established, would the ranking alterations not be a more gradual shift? Every former valedictorian and salutatorian in the class of 2018, 2019, and 2020 dropped all at once, losing their titles. Additionally, several Norwalk High School staff members were not aware of this stark shift up until recently. The teachers at Norwalk High School are highly informed educators who are hyper aware of the mechanics of the school district. If this current system had always been the established method of GPA calculation, our teachers and staff members would not be exhibiting such surprise, confusion, and frustration.
30 seconds, please.
This is so much bigger than just me. This change affects every single student and their abilities to apply for certain honor societies, universities, and scholarships. If this arbitrary change stands, the overwhelming majority of the NHS student body gets unfairly penalized for factors that are beyond their control. Core NHS students simply do not have the same kind of access to these courses. This is an uneven playing field that favors an extremely small of Norwalk High School. In the class of 2018, there are 12 seniors enrolled in NECA and 360 seniors enrolled in the traditional NHS track. Keep in mind, this year sets the precedent for all future classes. How are core NHS students expected to remain motivated and driven if they know that their efforts to be recognized for their academic merits are futile?
Okay,
I speak for the overwhelming majority of the NHS community when I ask that you please reassess this situation, points into consideration, and solving the issue before the first NECA class graduates from NHS. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, good arguments on both sides. That concludes our public speaking list. Is there anyone who missed the sign-up sheet that wishes to have 3 minutes at the podium? If not, that concludes public comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We will now move on to the superintendent's reports, and there are 3 of those, and we'll start off. But we'll let the superintendent carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is our night for high schools. You will recall that, or you may recall that shortly after the issuance of the Connecticut Next Generation Accountability Plan in January, February, it was followed by the state release of the graduation rates for the class of 2017. This is one of those reports that is required to be reported publicly at a public meeting. We were so excited about the results of the accountability plan and the gains that have been made at the individual school and district level, and then of course got involved in all the budget angst that followed that this was never reported out. So we're taking the opportunity tonight to do this, and Diane Filardo, our master of data, will do the honors as briefly as possible. And you have her slides ahead of you, and there are also copies in front of you. There are also copies for members of the public.
Good evening. We're going to take a look at graduation rates actually for 3 years, looking at Norwalk Public Schools overall, our comprehensive high schools, and our programs. And you can see, comparing the class of 2015, 2016, and 2017, a steady rise in our graduation rate. As Dr. Adamowski said, this is an indicator for our accountability system, indicator number 8. And what this translates to, if a school or a district reaches a target of 94% on the accountability reporting, they receive the maximum amount of points for graduation rate, indicator 8, and that's 100 points. If you look down the column class of 2017, you see that on the next accountability report, Brian Mcmahon, Norwalk High, and CGS will all receive the maximum amount of points. Norwalk overall will receive 99 out of 100 points. On our last report, with a graduation rate of 90.4, Norwalk received 96 points. On these tables, we're looking again at 3 years' worth of graduation rates for Norwalk overall in major subgroups and comparing that to Connecticut overall in subgroups. This first blue column is the change between the class of 2016 and 2017, and then the change between 2015 and 2017. And you see positive gains, both for Norwalk and for the state of Connecticut. But if you look at some subgroups and you compare the differences between graduation rates for our subgroups in comparison to the state of Connecticut, we have double digits we're ahead for Hispanic students, Black students, free and reduced lunch students, special education students, and of course, it follows for high need students in excess of 10 percentage points. On the next slide, we look at our 2 comprehensive high schools. We need to keep in mind that for the class of 2017, this was the first time that CGS was reported separately. So when we look at the decline in Brian Mcmahon, we have to realize that the class of 2017 is the first time where CGS was excluded. They were reported separately. But if you compare the overall graduation rates for 2017 for Brian Mcmahon and for Norwalk High, they're almost exact.
Can I ask?
Yes.
I know it says 4-year cohort rate. Let's look at Brian Mcmahon, for instance. To make sure I understand this, because of the history of problems with this kind of data in this country. So when you say 4-year cohort, for instance, for Black students at Brian Mcmahon in 2017, you're saying, are you saying that basically 98% of the freshmen in that cohort graduated 4 years later?
Correct.
That's close. The state uses a cohort formula. This is the product of the National Governors Association, but it is now federal law under ESCA. So the state Connecticut was one of the last adopters because it was forced to in order to get the ESCA grant. And there is a cohort formula. So you start off with the graduating class, but there is a provision for students leaving if they transfer to another school and students coming in if they come in from another school. So in other words, they're in school, but they've transferred in and out. So you take out the transfers, you add the students coming in, and you adjust the cohort as you go along to graduation. And this is the same method that every state now uses in the nation and every district in Connecticut uses. It's calculated for us by the state based upon the student attendance records.
Well, then these numbers are great. Yep. Really great.
Absolutely.
To illustrate Black students in the 2017 cohort, there were 187 Black students in the cohort. So they were freshmen in the, 13-14 school year. 176 out of the 187 graduated. So it's very impressive. Very impressive. Any other questions? Yes.
I am a little concerned. I think overall the growth is impressive. I am a little concerned about looking at some of the year-to-year, especially noting the Hispanic student subgroup. And so I'm wondering if there's been some root cause analysis or some digging into what's going on there, that we had essentially a Brian McMahon 5.8% drop in 1 year. And if we compare that overall for Norwalk to the state, we've got a 2.4% difference, since the state increased Hispanics 1.3 and Norwalk decreased 1.1, coming out to a 2.4% change there. So I'm wondering.
Julie, bring your mic.
I'm sorry.
So Brian McMahon, this is a class of 17, a year ago. Brian McMahon was the recipient of many English language learners, far more than Norwalk High School in the past year. And many of those were also unaccompanied minors. Many of those students, if they are learning English and they are arriving at age 15, 16, 17, they will show up in the 6-year graduation rate, which is another matter, but it was created by the state for this purpose, so that students who needed longer to complete the same standards would have an opportunity to graduate, or if they were learning English, or if they were acclimating to a new country or community. So next opportunity we have, we can share the 6-year graduation rate with you, and you're going to see some of those students there. You're also going to see some of the special education students in the 6th grade 6-year rate.
Right, thank you, because I think that makes sense, especially students that cross multiple subgroup identifications. If you're an English language learner, you may also be eligible for free and reduced price lunch. You may also be Latino. I think what's a little, at least grounds for looking into a little bit more, shows that the English language learner population was actually increasing, and yet the Latino subgroup was decreasing. And so I understand you may not have the answer right now, but it would be nice to have a little bit more information about what's going on there with that data.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll look at that more closely.
And I think also, Stephen, many of these students, there was a word for them, but now I can't remember what the word is, where their education had been interrupted.
SLIFE.
What's that?
SLIFE. It's called SLIFE. Students with limited or interrupted formal education. So when you think of your EL population, there were 90 students in this cohort, but to the degree that they've been schooled, if they're in the Norwalk International Academy, they may, although they were in a cohort as a 9th grader, they may have had very limited education experience.
And I remember somehow with this group, or these group of students that were arriving, that really was a feature.
So that, that is, we use the term ELL, but it could, the degree of schooling that students have that fall under that umbrella, particularly ones that are newly arrived in high school.
Yeah.
So, sorry, one follow-up. Were those students then split between Brian McMahon and Norwalk High, or were they predominantly?
Predominantly at Brian McMahon.
Okay.
Disproportionately for whatever reason.
Okay, thank you.
This is that period a year ago where Brian McMahon actually went up 100 students over Norwalk High School, and I know there was board discussion about that at the time in terms of what was happening, but that was the phenomenon.
Thank you.
And if you look in the budget book, Julie, they break out in there. It's broken out, and you can see this huge jump.
Yep.
Okay. The next slide just looks at the class of 2017, and you actually see the cohort count overall. So out of 866 students in the cohort, 93% graduated, which is 805 students. And you see the counts also and the rates by subgroup. Then you see a column that says still enrolled, and those are students that need more time, so they're still enrolled after 4 years. And then the category other includes dropouts and students who are enrolled in adult education program. And that's that column other. Finally, we realize that although our graduation rates are growing, we do have a gap between our high-need students and our non-high-need students, and we're trying to reduce that gap. So the first set of charts, whenever you see a blue bar graph, that is high needs, graduation rates. We're looking at the state 2015 through 2017 and comparing it to Norwalk's high need graduation rates. And you see that Norwalk is certainly above the state. And then you look at the non-high need rates across the state. And in the past 2 years, Norwalk's non-high needs graduation rate has exceeded the rate at the state. The numbers in red represents the gap between the high need rate and the non-high need. And you can see the state gap, 22, 21, 20, declining slightly. Norwalk's gap is about half that size, 12, 12.6, and with this latest cohort, 10.1. So over a 2-year period, the state gap declined by 1.7 percentage points. Norwalk's declined by 2.2. And we have to keep in mind the proportion of high needs students. At the state level, 51% of the class of 2017 cohorts were high needs. In Norwalk, that was 59%. So a higher portion of high needs students, a smaller gap, and higher graduation rates. Granted, we still have to reduce that gap, but we do see some improvement. Finally, we're looking at our district reference group, 3 cohorts, and we see for 3 consecutive years that Norwalk has the highest graduation rate within the DIRG. Any questions?
Just a little bit of analysis. As you know, this was the first year that CGS is considered a separate school, and that is a state decision based upon the fact that the funding for an interdistrict magnet school would only come, only be received if it were its own separate school. We expected the Brian McMahon rate to decline as a result of that, but it only declined by 1 point. Most significantly, the Norwalk High School rate increased significantly over the last year. So this brings us to the point where both comprehensive high schools have virtually an identical graduation rate, which is excellent. I think it speaks to the quality of both schools. And we are 1 point away from the 94% level. At that level, it's 100% of the points in the accountability plan, because that is the target, the SEA target that has been established for school districts in Connecticut. And we're very pleased to be 5 points over the state average at this point. So kudos to all of our high schools, their students, their faculty, their leadership. We're going to be talking about NEC in a minute, but I'd like to take the opportunity to recognize Scott Hurwitz and Reginald Roberts and Adam Reynolds, who are with us tonight, for their leadership in bringing this about. This is certainly one of the strengths of our high school program, and it occurs not magically, but by adapting the program to students' needs, by providing supports, by providing time and personalization, and enabling students to find a path to graduation. It's something our high schools are doing very well at this point, and it's a wonderful, I think, building block upon which this new program of study, which is before you tonight, can enhance even further.
I have something just occurred to me, a question. If you were to look at the DRGH, we have been discussing for a number of months now the minimal nature of our high school graduation requirements. With the fact that it is lower than in other districts have any impact on the actual graduation rates? And do we have examples of other high schools in the state or in this area where they did go from 20 or whatever to 25 and to 26? Did it have an impact positively or negatively on the graduation rates?
I don't have any examples right now, no.
That's a very good question. I think you can look at that from two perspectives. One is that the greater rigor that occurs in a high school may have an effect on the number of students that can complete the program. However, all the data that we have, Connecticut has, and exists nationally, suggests that the greatest number of dropouts occurs between 9th and 10th grade. And then there's a few after 10th, virtually none in 11th and 12th grade. And so in that sense, increasing the requirements in the program of studies may have no effect, assuming you can get students through the 9th grade and they're continuing in school. And it's an interesting question. I don't think, you know, we don't have our own data on this, so we'd have to look historically to see, but many of the districts that do have the 26 credits have been doing it for quite some time. So I'm not sure we have a recent comparison. I overlooked that Jackie Ahrens is also with us tonight. And Jackie, where are you? Because there you are. Okay. Housemaster at Norwalk High School. And congratulations to you for your leadership as well. Final aspect of my report tonight concerns the Invention Convention National Finals, and I appreciate the second item of our report tonight is the Norwalk Early College Academy update. Okay, I'm going to, Ralph, if you don't mind, we're going to since we have some students here for the Invention Convention, we're going to recognize them first, and then the NECA update. So, you may be aware that this was our first year as a district participating in the National Invention Convention program. This is typically a program that gifted programs throughout the state, those districts that do have gifted programs, participate in. We did it for the first time this year. Our gifted teachers, our teachers of the gifted, were trained in the methodology of this so that they could assist students in developing projects and submissions. We had some 57 students represent Norwalk Public Elementary and Middle Schools at the Connecticut Invention Convention. Those were the regionals in Hamden. And from there, 31 students were selected to advance to the Connecticut Invention Convention Finals, which took place at UConn's Gamble Pavilion on April 8th. There are now 40 students statewide going to the national conference. 5 of them, or 11%, are from the Norwalk school system. The best of our knowledge, Tracy School is the only school in the state of Connecticut which has 2 students qualifying. We're very, very proud of these 5 students, and I would just like to take a moment to recognize them, and when I do, if you and your parents would stand up and be recognized, and just know we're extremely proud of your accomplishment. This is another great example of the fact that when our students have the same opportunities as students in other school districts, they do as well, if not better. And so we are the leading delegation now at the National Convention from Connecticut. And again, we're very, very proud of the students. We're grateful to the teachers who worked so hard with them, and to their families who supported them. The first national finalist is Kylie Barrera. Kylie, are you here? If you would just stay standing, Kylie. Kylie is a fourth grader at Merrimack Elementary School. Her project is Safe Food, and Jennifer Mendez is her A teacher. Congratulations, Kylie. Anna Kyriakidis. Oh, Anna, I know I didn't. Are you here tonight? Okay. Anna's project is Bendy the Book Buddy. She is a fourth grader at Tracy Elementary School. Her teachers are Christine Griffith, who's her AT teacher, and John Sinserbo, who is the science and math coach, representing Tracy School, fourth grade. Congratulations, Anna. Holden Leggett, also of Tracy Elementary School, grade 4. Holden's project is the Hockey Nader, and his AT teacher is Christine Griffin, who's also coached by Mr. Cirinabo, science and math coach. Congratulations, Holden. Stella Schweitzer, the clean cut. Stella is a fifth grader at Waiton Elementary School. Nikki Gotautis is the AT teacher. And Stella, I happened to see your project at one point. And again, congratulations on your accomplishment. And last but not least, Tyler Consolati is a fifth grader at Wolfpit Elementary School. Tyler's invention is the vacuum snake. He's in grade 5 at Wolfpit, and Nikki Gotutis is his A teacher. He was also coached by Steve McCauley through the Wolfpit Enrichment Program. Congratulations to you, Tyler. So we did not expect, we really did not have on the radar screen that we would have national finalists. We certainly did not expect 5 national finalists. Everyone has been scurrying around to make plane reservations and hotel reservations for parents, children, the chaperones, teachers, and so on. And that is why there's an addition to your agenda tonight to approve this out-of-state 3-day trip for the students involved, because this will occur just before your workshop meeting, so there would be no other time to do this. But this is a nice problem to have, and we appreciate the board's cooperation in doing it. And again, you're just so proud and enthused to see our students rise to the top of the state and have this this kind of opportunity nationally. Congratulations to you all.
I just want to mention this competition, they're going to Dearborn, Michigan, which is where the national competition is taking place. It's over Memorial Day weekend, and one of the academically talented teachers, Christine Griffiths, offered to be the chaperone and lead these students, so I think she should be commended for making that effort.
All right, finally, and not least, this is the Norwalk Early College Academy update. This was asked for by the Board of Education. I believe Ms. Keyes made this request a couple of months ago. We originally had this scheduled at the last meeting. However, schedules of some of the preventers prevented that, so we needed to move it till now. But we have the A-team here, including our IBM partner and leader, and several students, along with Mr. Valenzizi. So Ralph, let me turn this to you.
Okay, great. Well, good evening, Board. Thanks for having us here tonight. And I'm going to keep my comments really, really brief. I mean, I'm actually here to just kind of kick off the celebration, really, of our P-TECH program, and as well as a quick update. But if everybody remembers, 4 years ago, we began this new program, which has really turned into a successful path for our students to develop academic, social, and workplace readiness skills that have set them up to be relevant and also empowered them in their own academics to be able to move forward from here. When we look at this 4 years later, we are here to celebrate the students and the program itself, but as a district, Dr. Adamowski had kind of hinted towards this earlier with the Pathways program that you're going to be presented with and approving a little bit later on tonight. This is an example of taking best practice and actually scaling it to where it needs to be. And this would not be possible if there wasn't a plan that was in place with measures, outcomes, and accountability. And I think that's something that we're starting to see as on a regular basis in the district, which is a wonderful thing and a great practice for us to all be in as we move forward. Real quick, there's a ton of data on this slide that you're looking at right now, and I'm not going to go through it all, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of things before I turn this over to Karen, who will be able to talk to you a little bit more about the program, and then Monoshito will talk about what's going on at the national level with NECA, so you're aware of that. And then we're going to turn it over to the students as well to talk a little bit about their next endeavors. But when you really look at the data that's on here, one of the things that sticks out to me is that these are real results and progress for these students. I mean, you can actually see these are tangible results of what they've been able to achieve. When you take a look at the classes that the students have taken, especially the college classes, it shows a very high rigor in what we're offering for these students. And one of the last things that really sticks out with me, if you look at attendance and you look at the honor roll rates here, we've basically been able to achieve a way of engaging students, but not only just engaging them, empowering them into be able to creating their own future for themselves. And you can see that in the data that shows that they're actually attending and they're doing very, very well in school, and they've done very, very well with school. So with that, I'm going to actually turn this over quickly to Karen. Like I said, we'll talk a little bit about the program more in detail. Monoshita, who is our IBM liaison, is here as well, and she'll talk a little bit about what's happening nationally. And if I can say, Monoshita, Monoshita is going to be actually moving on at the end of this year, or she's in a sense kind of transitioning at the moment. But she'll be handling this for IBM at the national level. And we have a wonderful person that's transitioned in, Gianna, who's over there in the audience, from IBM, our IBM liaison. We're excited about that. And then finally, we're going to have some of our students talk a little bit about what their futures entail. So with that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
How do I word this? I just turned
Okay, very good. Good evening, Dr. Adamowski and Board of Ed members. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you this evening. It's been 4 long years, and we are finally at this time in our development and our progression where we will be graduating students very soon with an associate's degree. So as Ralph mentioned, the P-TECH school in Norwalk is the first P-TECH school of its kind in the state of Connecticut, and we're very proud of the accomplishments that we've achieved thus far. Most of the credit goes to the students and obviously the teachers and staff of the Norwalk Early College Academy, but none of this would be possible without the support, continued support of the Board of Ed, Dr. Adamowski, and the financial backing and support that we've received to continue to grow in the way that we have. We also are very grateful to our partners, IBM and Norwalk Community College, for providing the opportunity for students to have a choice in how they spend their high school years. So we are at this place now where we are graduating our first class of students. Currently, we have 314 students enrolled in the academy in grades 9 through 14. 9 through 12. We also have just admitted our class of 2020. too, and we have about 100 students, and we have some students who are still applying, and we have to look at their applications and send out admissions letters. So we are continuing to grow, and I think the word is out that we are one of the best secrets in Norwalk. And so with the offerings at Brian McMahon High School, with the growing programs and pathways at Brian McMahon High School and Norwalk High School, we are providing students with choice, which is fantastic. If you look at our demographics, we are 58% male, 42% female, so we are addressing this gap where women and girls aren't traditionally involved in STEM. And so we're doing that at record numbers, and we're diversifying the pipeline and making sure that both students of color as well as girls are entering into STEM fields. We are as diverse as both high schools, Norwalk High School as well as Brian McMahon, and representative of Norwalk as a district and as a city. We have students who have IEPs, and so what we're talking about here is making sure that students who have learning differences are still able to access a curriculum and also go to college and graduate college. So we are an open enrollment school, as the model suggests, and we make sure that we personalize learning to meet the needs of every student enrolled in the academy. We offer 3 degrees: mobile programming, software engineering, and web development. Our web development degree is kicking off this summer, and students enrolling in the program can now choose one of 3 degrees. The next slide actually shows you the percentage breakdown of those students who have selected each major. 35% of our students are web development majors, 24% programming majors, and 41% software engineering majors. The students that are graduating in just 2 days are all software engineering majors. The requirements for the software engineering major are quite rigorous. The students must take pre-calculus at the college as well as calculus at the college in order to earn the degree. This being our first year, we have about 63 seniors. All of our students have had college acceptances, earned college acceptances. Of the 66, we have 12 students who are earning their associate's degree from Norwalk Community College on Thursday, May 17th. And you all have been invited to participate in that celebratory event with us at the Norwalk Inn, where our students will be speaking and being presented with certain honors. And then they will actually graduate from Norwalk Community College at the Webster Bank Arena in Bridgeport later that day. So again, on May 17th, we have 12 Norwalk High School NECA scholars who are graduating with an associate's degree in software engineering. The remaining students have applied to 4-year colleges or universities, and the others, the majority of our senior class, will be transferring into Norwalk Community College to complete one of the 3 degrees I mentioned earlier. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Nishita, and then at some point we'll take questions. Thank you very much. I'll take questions now.
I want to ask you 2 quick questions.
Yes.
Of the breakdown of the students in the school between Norwalk High District versus Brian McMahon, maybe you don't even look at that. Is it evenly distributed?
We have very few numbers from Brian McMahon, but again, it is open to all students who live in Norwalk, so residency is the only requirement. Yeah. What we found in the 4 years is that students typically like to attend school with their peers, the ones that they've had that time with. School. Yeah. And so the students, we do have students from the Brian McMahon district or inter-district, and so they are with us. They're doing quite well. They understand that when they apply to NECA, they will become registered Norwalk High School students, and they take it with seriousness, and they do very well as Norwalk High School Bears.
Yeah, it's just like Norwalk High kids going to CGS.
Exactly.
And then for this list of the applications, the bold font versus the other, what's the difference?
So what we did, because this is our first year and we're in the process of collecting lots of data, we looked at all of the colleges that our students apply to. And so far, the ones in bold are the ones that our students have elected to attend or have been accepted to. There's more information to come as students get more information from their colleges and universities. Some are still waiting to commit based on the fact that there are rolling admissions.
But the font, the lighter font is where they applied to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
And then could you just have the numbers? So there's 63 seniors.
63 seniors.
So 12 are getting associates.
Earning an associate's degree in 2 days.
And then what would they most likely do?
They have all applied to 4-year colleges and universities, and some will speak to this, but they are going off to to attend another college or university to continue their studies in a number of different fields, including engineering and some other international relations, Aaron Amrich, and then and then we also have two that have applied to work at IBM, and Asim Vora, who you will hear from momentarily, is our first IBMer. He has been hired as an IBM employee, and he will speak to his role at IBM, but he also has been accepted to the University of Connecticut and some other schools, so he'll be attending school full-time and working at IBM.
Wow. And then you had said something about some of the kids will go finish their degrees at
Right, so we are
NC?
so we are a 9 through 14 school, which means that students can have the traditional 9 through 12 high school experience, taking some or no college courses. The majority of those students have not taken any college courses, and so what the model does is provide access and opportunity to allow students to actually not only enter into college, but to complete it, because we will continue to provide that support. Those students will still be on our rolls, and so we will provide the counseling and transitional support necessary for them to attain a 4-year degree if they choose.
So some of these kids are they'll get a Norwalk High School diploma on June 9th, 18th, and then they will be able to go to NCC
free of charge.
Free of charge, because they've been part of NECA, so they would do theoretically years 13, 14.
Exactly, years 13 and 14.
Get an associate's degree, still have the resources and support from Norwalk High School.
Exactly. Yep. So Carol Wilshire-Toth, as one of our school counselors, will provide that assistance, and we're looking forward to those students transferring. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Monashita now.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Adamowski, Board of Education, NECA scholars, parents, students in the audience. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present tonight. So, where is the clicker? There we go. So, I would like to spend a little bit of time putting the NECA program that we have here in the District of Norwalk, this first P-TECH school in Connecticut, in context of the larger movement, because it has become a movement over the last 6 or 7 years. So right now, the Norwalk Early College Academy is part of a network of over 90 schools nationally and internationally. And that growth has happened from 2011 to 2018. We started with one school in 2011 in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and now we are where we are today. So I want to talk a little bit about, what has fueled this growth. What is it about P-TECH, about the Norwalk Early College Academy, that sets it apart from other programs, other options? And there's really two things. There are many early college opportunities, and they're fantastic, and we are one of those things too. But what makes it unique here is that there is an element of very deep career focus, career readiness, and then there's also the focus on degree attainment. So it's not just access to college courses, it's not just about a number of credits, but our focus is to make sure that our students who we bring into our schools through open enrollment, no screening, no testing, do indeed leave with that associate's degree in their hand. And when they do, they take those credits on, as Karen just talked about, they can go on to a 4-year institution in any field that they want to, or as we're seeing now in Connecticut, and not just in Brooklyn and in other places, they can launch into a career. And it is a career, it is not a job. So I think that there's a difference between the two things, because when we bring students into IBM, we have 17 full-time IBMers who are graduates of our schools. They have options, they're on pathways, they're in apprenticeship roles, they're in tracks. So they're really applying these skills in a variety of ways that allows them to grow at the company and really get exposure and mentorship. At the same time, we don't believe that their education has to or should end should they join a career pathway. So most of these students continue on with schooling, as you see Asim will be doing in the fall. He'll be working and also managing his college course load. So these are really the two factors that have fueled this interest in this model and have fueled this growth in the country and abroad. So, obviously many schools in the United States. IBM partners with 6 schools in the United States. We also have partnerships in Australia and Morocco, and we will be growing to other countries as well. So when we think about NECA, I think it's important to kind of dial back and also think about where we fall in this larger context, in this larger movement and this interest, not only here, but broader. And then that brings me a little bit to why this interest, why does industry get involved in this space? And essentially the impetus for companies like IBM and the 450 plus companies that we have involved in all of these P-Tech schools is that, you know, companies are looking for talented, skilled, motivated workers. And there is a skills gap, or at least employers complain about a skills gap in terms of when they bring in new employees, they don't necessarily always have the skills that are needed right off the bat. And because P-Tech allows a company like IBM to be so involved from day one of the experience, we're really able to train and expose these students to what a company is looking for. And you know, overall, if you look at the trend in the United States, and other places as well, I mean, there is a huge space which we call new collar, which is a space where we have very competitive career opportunities where you need definitely more than the high school diploma, but not necessarily a bachelor's degree right off the bat. And so P-Tech fills that space as well. And that's where P-Tech falls, you know, in terms of sort of the industry spectrum. And finally, I'll celebrate a little bit, you know, of the accomplishments here in Norwalk, Connecticut. So, well, first I'll start off a little bit broader scale. I mean, I talked about the focus on college and career and really walking with this degree. Again, one of the things that really allows this model to scale is the results here. So if you look at community college graduation rates across the country, and if you look at graduation rates that we're seeing from P-Tech thus far, it's 4 times the national average. So again, that focus on being able to really complete the degree, whether it's in 4 years, 2 years ahead of schedule, 5 years, or 6 years, it is that completion that really you know, catches the interest of districts and communities and things like that. And then, as I said, there is a very deep industry exposure. Our students have the opportunity for paid internships. We had 30% complete them at 4 sites across IBM. We have nearly 30% kind of slated to go for this summer. And of course, at the end of this, anyone who's interested in IBM and qualified and has the degree at hand has the opportunity to interview. So those are kind of the key pieces that I wanted to highlight. Thank you.
So at this time, I'd like to first honor all of our 2018 graduates. Many of the four-year graduates are in the audience, and so I'd like them just to stand and state their name and their intended major and college, please. Aaron Americh.
Hi, I'm Aaron Americh. I will be attending American University. I'll be attending American University in DC to study international relations and service.
My name is Charlotte Clay, and I will be attending UConn in the honors program for an engineering major. So far, it's undecided. My name is Kevin K.L. I'll be attending UConn's third semester trail and double majoring in physics and chemical engineering.
My name is Sabrina Laura. I will be attending UConn and actually majoring in biomedical engineering.
My name is Matthias Carlehog, and I'll be attending Clarkson University for mechanical engineering.
My name is Amelia Navarro, and I'll be attending UConn Stores.
And so now you'll hear from 3 of the students in our student spotlight: Asim Vora, Tanaya Bynum, and Ryan Stelly.
Good evening. My name is Asim Vora, and I'm going to be attending UConn Stanford as a computer science major. And I'm also going to be working at IBM as a cloud systems analyst for IBM Southbury.
Wow.
Yeah.
My name is Tanaya Bynum, and I'm not quite sure where I'm going to attend. I'm either going to go to UConn or Spelman. I'm undecided
right now, and I also applied for an IBM job, and I'm just waiting for an answer.
My name is Ryan Stelly, and next fall I will attend Lehigh University to study some form of engineering.
Any questions?
I heard Southbury is one of the spots you'll be working at. Are there spots open in like Armonk, or where are some of these spots that the students may land?
They can land anywhere where we have IBM offices. So we have students currently working in New York City, in DC, in Georgia, obviously in Connecticut. So they have access to all of the open positions that IBM has for anyone who has an associate's degree in their field. So it's really dependent on, you know, where the student wants to apply, whether they want to stay in state, whether they want to go out of state. So, you know, the list will grow as the graduates grow.
Okay, thanks.
Great. So, one quick question. So, does the relationship continue once the students are off in their four-year schools? Does the relationship continue? So, if they receive a four-year degree or even master's degrees or beyond, do they have the opportunity to come back to IBM for future openings?
Absolutely. So we certainly don't forget about our P-Tech graduates ever, and we actually follow them probably more than they would like. So to give you an example, we have a number of graduates who are in four-year colleges now, and they are in very competitive internship programs with IBM right now, including Extreme Blue, including Summit. You know, these are internship programs that exist on on campuses and at IBM, and you apply as a general applicant. So the door is never closed. You know, we will remember you, and of course, if you come back in 10 years or 5 years, we'd love to interview you.
So I guess, Asim, so you're getting an associate's degree? Are you one of the 12?
Yeah, I am.
So that made you eligible for this IBM position?
Exactly, yeah.
While you're going to school?
Mm-hmm.
You'll just juggle both?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike, can I just add a comment? Barbara?
No, go ahead.
I have to just mention, I remember when we started this, actually, during a presentation at Norwalk Community College, Ralph, correct, back in 2014, and then to see it come full circle 4 years later. Very impressive group, and I just wanted to congratulate everyone that's part of the program and also graduating with your 2-year degree and then moving on from there. And all these, the college list is very, very impressive, so congratulations to everyone.
Ryan, can I ask you a question? Yeah. With the college courses that you took at NCC, will you attempt to finish your 4-degree more quickly, a 4-year engineering degree? And do you feel like the courses that you took in this program, which was directed in specific ways, not necessarily for engineering, set you up for an engineering degree?
Absolutely. Currently, I'm working with Lehigh to transfer over the general education requirements, for example, English 101, English 102. But in terms of just taking college classes at NCC, it's prepared me for what to expect at a 4-year institution as opposed to continuing with my honors courses.
And are there any overlap courses in the major?
One glaring example would be my calculus course.
Mm-hmm.
And I just completed that a couple weeks ago, and I'm still looking forward to finding out what that grade is on that final exam.
Congratulations.
So I can finally relax for the summer.
Ryan earned an A.
Congratulations and thank you.
Aren't you glad you were asked that question?
Very much so.
Anything else from the board? Well, thank you for coming today.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Just one final note on NECA. You know, reference has been made on a couple of occasions to the fact that there are other P-Tech programs in Connecticut. In fact, there are 3 other programs. They have not done as well as ours, and in some sense, they have floundered. And I think that what has been the ingredients that has contributed to our NECA program thriving are three factors. One, the first is embodied in our partners, Norwalk Community College and IBM. One could not have as great partners. David Levison has stuck by this at the point when the state cut funding for the college courses. He's continued it until we were able to get our own magnet funding. And IBM has been wonderful. Monoshita personally has played a significant, who's a former TFA, by the way, core person, has played a wonderful role in that. And then I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Board of Education, because one of the reasons why we can provide the complete program and fidelity to the model is the $1,000 per student that you provide for students enrolled in magnet programs. And that really has made the difference in terms of being able to provide a skeleton program and a complete program that we have. So I want to thank the board also for your support of this, and I hope you feel a great deal of gratification when you see something like this as successful as it is.
Can I add something, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Recently, I attended a meeting at NHS, I guess it's about 3 months ago, that Monoshita hosted along with the NECA program. And one of the things that I encourage everyone who's here to consider doing is to write to our new governor when we get him, or her, and ask for funding for these PTIC programs, because we were promised funding and then it wasn't provided. And that's just not right. We as a community, we have excelled in this area. We've become a model nationally. We need to stand up for this model. And we need to ask our legislators and our neighboring legislators who may also have PTECs and our governor to stand for this model. I'm going to the Democratic Convention this weekend, and I will be asking for that. And I hope that you will join me in writing and calling to ask for it too. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think that concludes the superintendent's report. We will now move to actions. First of all, to the consent calendar, items 2A, 2B, approval of personnel and approval of budget transfers. These are standard personnel actions, from appointments to resignations to retirements to extensions for special leaves. Could I have a motion for approval?
I actually have a question.
Yes.
Regarding it. May I ask Mr. Hamilton a question?
Yeah, we have to have the motion to start the approval first, and then you can ask questions. So a motion for approval.
Excuse me, procedure.
Yeah.
Wouldn't, we would have to,
unless you don't like to go
we'd
on
have to
consent.
remove, there'd have to be a motion to remove 2B from consent if there's going to be a discussion of the issue. I don't know how you guys do it, but.
Okay.
You want to talk about 2B?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we'll just have on consent approval of personnel. Ms. Keys, will you wish to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Lyons? Any discussion? No? Okay, all in favor? Accept. This is for the personnel.
Okay.
Okay, unanimous. Now we will move on to budget transfers. Mr. Hamilton, could you stand up to the podium as we seem to have a question?
I think Brian's going to have to move it now. It would have to be moved now. It's been turned into an action item.
Okay.
Correct.
Brian, just say.
Yes.
I moved. I don't know what I moved. What am I moving?
Budget transfers.
Budget transfer.
Okay. Second.
Second by Mr. Lyons. Barbara, please ask your question.
Mr. Hamilton, can you speak to the $175,000 transfer for legal costs?
Sure. This is a transfer into the board's main legal account. It's used, this account is used for a variety of legal expenses during the course of the year, including expenses for labor relations services, general legal services, representation of the district in any litigation, and as I've indicated here, legal settlements.
And is this in particular pertinent to a settlement?
The total budget, the original budget here was $338,000, and with this transfer of $175,000, it would bring the revised budget up to $513,000. Just point out, last year the actual expense out of this same account was $538,000. So it's not out of line with the normal expense, but there was in fact a legal settlement that was charged to this account that went through this board. I believe it was in November, or I'm sorry, December, I believe.
And is there a particular reason why our insurance didn't cover this settlement?
The expectation was that at the time, I believe, was that the city insurance fund was going to cover it. We did send it through to the Corporation Council, and the Common Council declined to approve the transaction.
Did they provide a reason for that?
I was not at that meeting, so I don't really have detailed knowledge. They held that meeting the same night as the night we were presenting our operating budget to the board in January.
I see. Mr. Superintendent, have you had any update from anybody in the council or the mayor's office as to why that decision was made?
No, you have not.
Because my understanding is this takes a hit on our budget when in fact we are insured for this. Am I incorrect in that assessment?
That has been our assumption. The city maintains a legal fund for both governmental entities through which it pays settlements. The fact that this one was not approved and there was no follow-up, I cannot explain. I think that would be a question for the mayor.
Okay. I would suggest that it is fiscally imprudent for the city to not utilize insurance that we have paid for a settlement and have that money taken out of our school funding, which we have fought so desperately for. So thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
And the insurance fund is self-funded by the city, is it not, Tom?
Right. The city does carry insurance, but it's in excess of $1 million deductible. So for most practical purposes, the claims are self-insured. But there is, as the superintendent indicated, a separate insurance fund for liability claims that's held by the city in this particular case, not held by the board.
I see. Thank you.
In relation to that, Tom, what's the $124,000 from what's redesign funds?
That's from the middle school.
Middle school.
That was actually where we placed money from carryover money from the prior year that what the city did appropriate. It went into that particular account. That was kind of a holding account, and some of it was used for a variety of things, including the security enhancement that you may recall, and that was the balance that was left there.
Holding account. That's a new one. Thank you.
Well, it was appropriated based on reductions that we had received in state aid and so on. But at this point, we're toward the end of the fiscal year, looking at that account and suggesting this would be an area to cover this particular need.
Okay, thank you. That satisfies my curiosity.
I'm just wondering, Tom, my impression at one point from the city was that they were going to come through on this front. I don't know if we should nudge them one more time before we vote to transfer these funds, because once we transfer the funds, should there be one more?
It's already paid.
Right, but we should be getting reimbursed.
And we have until
By the
June
city.
30th.
Well, I mean, if you want to book another transfer to put a receivable on the city, I don't know how we do that. Right? We're just aligning our actuals to our actual spend right now.
Right. We're at this point trying to cover, the year-end bills and so on. the city could, reconsider that action, but, I don't know that, how well that would be received at this point.
But they never really, they just punted the night when they had that meeting. I wasn't there, but my impression was everyone pretended they didn't know anything about it, and they just threw up their hands, and so they decided to do nothing. I don't know where Mario Coppola was, but they knew full well, because we had had a whole dialogue with them about this. So feigning that they didn't know really wasn't accurate.
Mr. Chair, are you suggesting we table this until?
I don't know, but I mean, if we have to do it to sort out our books and it doesn't close the chapter on us getting funding, that heretofore has been past practice, you tell us, Tom, what, you've been on both sides, so you tell us what we need to, what we should do.
I don't think that the approval of this transfer forecloses going back to the city. This transfer is needed in order to balance this account. Which we could wait a month on it, but it does need to get approved before we close the, certainly before we close the fiscal year. So you could approve it and then still go back to the city to ask them to reconsider that action.
But reconsider, did they actually vote against? I thought they just tabled.
Yeah, they may have tabled it. I'm not 100% certain.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Brian, did you have something?
Well, yeah, I mean, does making this accounting entry change anything? How does it change anything? The money's spent.
Right, the money has been spent. We need to balance our accounts out before the end of the fiscal year. If the city were to approve it, they would then transfer the money from the insurance fund over to this account to cover the expense. If they don't, then we need this transfer to cover it.
Okay, I don't know if board members feel strongly about this one way or the other.
I just feel it's an accounting entry. It doesn't really matter. You
Okay.
could leave it sitting in middle school redesign. The money's still gone. Right?
I mean, I would say we need to do what we need to do to get the books squared on the BOE
Yeah,
side, but
it gives us a
those conversations still clearly need to happen to get clear answers.
This accounting entry just gives us a more accurate P&L. That's all it does.
Okay, it's not closing the door.
I mean, it doesn't change the fact that, we're going to face 2.3 million in reductions within the next month, and the city's adding 12 headcount or whatever to a new management team. It doesn't change that fact either.
No. Mr. Kimmel.
I know in past practice, if I remember correctly, it was not like this. Number one. Number two, I agree that the city did know. Number three, I don't think it's appropriate for us to have to basically go hat in hand to the city to ask for money. We made a decision, and that's that as an independent body. The idea, the precedent that was set, I'm very uncomfortable with. I'm glad you brought this back up, because what we basically is our legal settlements, whether they're ordered by a judge or whatever, are certain on a certain date. We don't go before the Common Council and say, please. We just don't do that, and that's what happened here. If I was, as far as I know, we were in constant discussions. We were under the thumb of a judge. We did what we had to do, and that was that. And we have the final say on this kind of thing. We make the decision. The council doesn't make the decision, and neither does anyone else in the Corporation Council's office, although we will consult. But it's our decision, and it is one fund. And so I really don't quite get this. Council should not have final say.
Well, I think that's the crux of why there's a issue here, because the council believes, and in practice, the Common Council has approved all legal settlements prior to those settlements being finalized. If the money,
even the board?
If the money is coming out of the insurance fund. In this, but we've got this doesn't happen all that often. There aren't that many legal settlements that relate to the Board of Education. If it's a trip and a fall at a city school, that's handled routinely through the Corporation Counsel's office, and if there were a settlement on that case, it would not come through this board, but would go through the Common Council. And so I think the issue was, in this case, the Board of Education, which under state law is a separate body politic, has the right to sue and be sued and to settle and compromise claims, did that as part of your governmental function, but that settlement was approved before it went through or without going through approval of the Common Council. It then came to the Common Council, brought by the Corporation Council, and they said, gee, it sounds like it's already been settled and in fact has already been paid, so why are we even seeing this? So I think that's the crux of the issue.
In your experience, does it work the same way in other cities, that the legislative body will have final say on settlements that involve boards of education?
I don't know that there's one standard practice. In fact, it doesn't look like there's one standard practice in the city of Norwalk alone. So I don't think there's a statewide standard on this.
Should we, obviously we hope this never happens again, but we did not have a lawyer present other than the ones we're lucky to have amongst us. At the meeting that we took the decision, should we make that a procedure to always have a lawyer present for these sorts of things to help us navigate? Possibly even Mario? We're hoping it never happens again.
I would say that certainly, yeah, you should certainly consult with a lawyer before settling, but I think there were lawyers involved in the settlement, as I understand it. I wasn't at the meeting when you were making that decision, but I think there always have been lawyers involved in any legal case that I'm aware of.
In the board's discussions, we were advised in one direction, and I'm wondering if we had the city's legal counsel available to us, if we would have changed anything in the outcome. So, just wondering.
You mean representing you?
Yeah, to help us understand, not representing us, but if there's a problem with the interface between our legal decisions and the city's willingness to support that, then, obviously there's...
So the city does not represent you in educational matters or matters of this nature. As Tom said, the Corporation Counsel's office will do the small liability claims. They do the CHRO complaints, but that's about the extent of it, and then you have to rely on your own legal counsel, in this case, Shipman and Goodwin. My understanding was that the attorney from Shipman and Goodwin was in touch with the Corporation Counsel at the point of settlement. So I think that communication did occur.
And yet.
Yeah, that I remember because I talked to Tom Mooney about it extensively.
So do we know where the communication gap fell apart then?
I don't think this was a communication gap that fell apart.
I think the superintendent is correct. Sarah?
I just wanted to make sure that I'm clearly understanding something that you said. So the council didn't feel they had anything to approve or disapprove because they felt that the settlement had already happened, but I don't understand why the funds came from a different place as a result of that. Timing?
Timing.
There was an expiration on the settlement. And respectfully to all my colleagues, dredging this up isn't going to get us another $175,000. They would have taken the $950,000 and dropped it down by that, right? Mm-hmm. So they still only funded 2/3 of our increase request. They would have landed on that regardless of whether they decided to do this transfer or not.
Well, in this case, the payment had to be made, I believe, in 15 days, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And that was prior to the next council meeting. So there was, you simply had to do that to comply with the order.
Okay. So I guess, do we have a motion to do the transfer?
I so moved.
Julie? Second? Yep.
Whatever.
Ms. Barr-Mitchell? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. We will now move on to the next action, which is the approval of the 18-19 high school program of studies. We had reviewed this when we had our board meeting at high school, and there is a very thick book which represents the program of studies. Could I have a motion for approval? Yeah. Ms. Keys, second. Ms. Lemieux. Any discussion? Ms. Barbara Mai Mitchell.
My Don Quixote moments. We only got a one-pager today summarizing. I'm so enthusiastic about the course offerings and the pathways. But at the meeting where this was presented, we did have a discussion about people having the opportunity to cobble together their own pathway or their own program of studies. Has anything further been done to achieve that goal, to make an application process or some
Well,
such?
please understand, this has been going on for the course of a year and a half. So through the department heads, every department, every group of teachers has had that opportunity to do that. There are a couple of updates on this. Adam Reynolds is here, who chaired this effort, and thank you, Adam. In Craig Kreller's absence, I just want to say that there are two things that are kind of addendums since your workshop. One is the passage of the state legislation on Holocaust studies and other genocide studies, and so we have examined that legislation. We believe that the course that is recommended in the program of study on genocide studies, which includes the Holocaust, will meet the parameters of the new statute. It is not a required course, but it has to be offered, and so we're essentially doing that in the manner that's laid out here. Secondly, I think Mr. Kroller mentioned to you, we are concerned that the language program, our world languages, are not at the right level of coherence at this point, and so we would like to. It's one of your priority implementation steps next year, study the issue of the world languages. Which languages should we be offering, for example? We're concerned that German, which appears to be the language of STEM, is not offered at all. We have an inordinate amount of students in Italian. We just don't seem to have a coherence in terms of how language relates to the other pathways. And we'd like to spend a year studying this. We'd like to involve the Center for Applied Linguistics in Washington, D.C., which is the national think tank and expert in this area. And so I think you could anticipate by the end of next year coming back to you with some revision of the language requirements. Other than that, I think everyone feels very comfortable about this. We have held up the registration of the 9th and 10th graders to this point, and as you know, there's a restlessness in the community over this. And so assuming this is passed tonight, they're registering tomorrow. Students are registering for their classes. Those are the classes.
I have no intention to hold anything up.
No, but those are the classes that will be covered under the 22 credit or 26 credit requirement. And again, this is a historic moment for us.
My question was not whether the faculty had the opportunity to create other pathways, but whether students had the opportunity, if there was not a pathway that met their particular interests, could create their own. I think I gave the example of the music business.
I think we'll know that once we get some experience with the current pathways. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of pathways here. We do not expect that they're all going to be subscribed to initially. However, as they are, we will have the flexibility to substitute classes in the various pathways based upon student interest and need. That'll be a faculty-approved decision. It will probably be a decision of the student with the advisor of the capstone, of the student's capstone, to make an adjustment in the junior or senior year to include something that may not be strictly in the pathway lane.
Great, that's perfect.
So yes, we do have that provision.
Thank you.
If I can just, I'm sorry, Sarah, do you want to go? Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to say that, especially after hearing the students from NHS and NECA speak this evening, and with this program of studies, I am unbelievably excited to be the parent of a student who is going to be choosing a program of high school study in Norwalk. And so I have to say that.
And I guess, since we're on that topic, I will say there is nothing in this book that does refer to the whole issue that the students were presenting in public comments about credits and how that's supposed to work. So I don't know where that leaves the situation, and the superintendent's made his case as how he thinks the situation should be handled. But the fact is, there's nothing in this book that does address that. And
well, that's correct. This is a program of study.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. The issue is the calculation system for GPA.
Right.
There is a section in here that
yes.
talks about that.
There is a section in here that talks about it.
There's a couple of pages here where we talk about waiting for AP, IB, et cetera, and there's no mention of credits being allowed for college courses and stuff, which is, I think, given the commentary we got tonight, a serious omission.
Grading procedures and credit system, page 7.
Yep.
I think we need to look at that further. I mean, this has already been printed.
So there are other college courses besides NCC classes, right, at both high schools. And traditionally, they have been weighted the same way as an AP or an IB class would be weighted. Now, this issue of taking a whole semester or one term is not accurate, because they're all controlled by seat hours. So you could take the same number of seat hours in one semester as you can in a year if you were taking a high school course. But the issue of dual credit courses or college courses is the issue. And I think there were very valid arguments on both sides for this tonight. I think that this is something the board may look at through the policy committee, and there's two ways to go here. You can either make some calculation, change in calculation, or you can limit the number of college courses that can be part of the GPA. But, I would tell you that having looked at this a little further later this afternoon, at Norwalk High School, while the NECA student is the top student in terms of GPA, the next 7 or 8 students are Norwalk High School students, and you don't get another NECA student until you get down to 9 or 10. So this simply happens to be an incredibly credible student with incredible work capacity and intellect who just worked and got an A in every college class he took. Whether or not that number would exceed the number of AP classes that are available is something I think we'd have to look at. However, I can tell you that at Bryan Mcmahon, we'll be facing the same issue next year. Because the IB diplomate students, those 40 students who took the junior year this year, well, they're seniors next year. They will graduate with 13 IB credits, which are weighted college credits. And it's very likely that your valedictorian is going to come from among the ranks of one of those students.
Because the IB classes are the equivalent of an AP class, correct?
Correct.
So your typical high school student would not take 13 APs?
No, there's only 40 kids. There's about 110 who are taking one or more IB classes. There are 40 in the diplomate program, at least their junior year, who took all the IB classes, and they've got it's 13 classes to get the diplomate. So they're on track for that. And let's assume 38, 39 of the 40 complete that next year.
I just have a question. What's stopping a normal matriculant at Norwalk High from going up to Fairfield and taking a college course?
It won't go on your transcript.
But they don't go on the transcript.
Because it's not part of
Right.
a program.
Because the NECA courses are considered dual credit, right? So you get credit both from the college and you get credit from.
So that just counts towards college. And I'm just thinking personally, I took chemistry at NCC because I couldn't fit it in when I was a junior.
It wouldn't count.
It didn't count towards Norwalk High, it counted towards UConn. Though.
Right, but it wouldn't count on your transcript, and I think
On your GPA at least, yeah.
Thank you.
These students are, you know, look, they want to apply to college. I mean, I don't know, I guess you're already in college. I don't know, Adam, do you have any comments you want to make on this to enlighten us?
I think what Dr. Adamowski said before, really exploring the calculations.
Yeah.
Would be probably where I stand too.
Because I understand the frustration of these students, but the fact is, you know, and look, who doesn't want to be valedictorian of your class? But at the same time, you're already in college. It's whether you're, by the time it's determined whether you're a valedictorian or not, you've been accepted into college.
Well, I think also, Mike, some of these kids that have been on track, Adam, and you could probably vouch for this, that have started in their freshman year and then fast forward to their senior year, and they've been on track, you know, doing really well, and they thought they were at the top of their class, and all of a sudden they get close and they're a month from graduation and realize that they're at a different level at this point.
Now, as you consider this, the other issue that no one has picked up on that I think is almost a more pressing issue is the fact, can CGS participate in the Brian Mcmahon GPA calculation, which they are doing now, right? And so there have been a number of when the schools were won, there were a number of valedictorians of Brian Mcmahon from CGS. Yeah. That may continue as long as, but can that occur when CGS is a separate school? You know, these traditions die hard, and that's what's happening this year. But whether or not you want to support that in terms of policy is a whole nother question.
Well, I would think, having had a kid at CGS, I would think it will be, you know, they really feel part of Brian Mcmahon, but since they are legally a separate school, you know, they could theoretically have their own graduation and their own.
They could. And again, I think this is another matter of board policy. And, you know, right now people are just following what they've done, right? And, but, you know, times are changing. So we have new programs now. We have more rigor. We have exciting opportunities. Students are doing things they've never done before. So it's natural that this kind of an issue is going to rise to the surface. And I think it would be a good idea to take a close look at this. There are probably 3 or 4 related issues around GPA calculation that we can define for you.
And I think policy.
Sarah's been waiting to comment.
Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, well, so having listened to the students speak, I have no doubt that they will be successful regardless of what their class rank is, you know. But did the class rankings change unexpectedly midstream? Is that?
No, my understanding is they're recalculated every semester.
Every semester.
Being the person who is really affected, my students are most affected by this. I think there are a couple of points. One is that if the calculations are changed per semester, the two persons or 2 students who were ranked 1 and 2, at the end of the fall semester, if they had taken a Norwalk High School course, they could have been bumped by a Norwalk High School student as well. So I think that clear distinction needs to be made, that this isn't just about NECA students taking college courses. The other piece that needs clarification is that college courses are given the exact same weight as an AP course. And so I understand that there is some concern about how many AP courses or AP-like courses a student could take. But I think Dr. Adamowski also mentioned the point that I had made to some of the folks who had concern about this, which is that all 12 students had the exact same at NCC. Only Ryan Stelly was now, because of his academic excellence, was bumped to #1 from #3 based on his semester grades. The other 12, the other 11 students are somewhere down the list. They are #12 and so on, all the way through to #29. So given the exact same program, everyone had the same advantage. However, because of his academic promise, because of his perseverance, because of his intellect and ability, this is now an issue. Had this been, in my opinion, and with all due respect, had this been a Norwalk High School student bumping another Norwalk High School student, we would not be having this conversation. And so I think it's important to everyone to understand some of the nuances and to look more closely at this before any decision is rendered. And understanding also that Norwalk High School students, NECA students are Norwalk High School students. And so while the students both made on both sides, made really valid arguments, I think that we need to understand how divisive this issue can be to a school community, and the fact that teachers are signing a petition where NECA students are in their classes. I'm concerned as a parent, I'm concerned as an educator, and I'm concerned for my NECA students that they may be unfairly graded as a result of some of the sentiment that is now pervasive in Norwalk High School.
Thank you. Mike, can I just add one other comment to this, and then I'll move on, but thank you for your response on that. But I think our goal here as Board of Ed members and as parents and, you know, advocates for all students in our schools here, we certainly don't want to pit students against one another. That's certainly not anyone's objective, but also they're all Norwalk High School students, and we realize that. I think from my perspective, we just want to do what's fair, you know, whatever that may be, but I think we just all want to work together, and, you know, you want kids that are graduating and that are happy, but you know, you have these kids that have been on this track for a while and they're concerned why they've been bumped, and I think that's part of the issue.
But I think, Heidi, I'm glad you spoke, Karen, because you know, we hadn't heard the NECA side as much, and it really is too bad. It is so divisive. Right. I have to say, we've gotten several emails from the other side, and the virulence, I thought, and the tone of the emails we received, or I received as board chair, I was a little surprised by. And I think the problem is, Heidi, you're right. Oh, we want to be perfectly fair, but fairness, you know, it's all in the eye of the beholder. And I don't think it's going to be very easy to come up with something that's going to be acceptable to both sides. But I think you do make some good points that, you know, of those 12 students, only one was a player in this formula. And maybe part of it is it's just the shock. You know, this is the first year you have a graduating class from NECA, and it's the transition. Just like next year, Mcmahon will have this with the IB students. And it's, you know, unless we find a way to adjust the weights. I hadn't thought of that. I didn't realize, Stephen, the idea that the hours in a semester are the same as at NCC as the same in a year-long course in high school, which actually kind of makes sense. You know, and maybe it's just going to be a reality students are going to have to accept. I don't know, but it really should ideally be happening at the school level more so, I think, than it coming to the board and us making some pronouncement and forcing that. But maybe because of the way it's played out, that's what we're going to have to do.
It's also a month till graduation, so it's all kind of coming to a head. And NECA's great. We started in 2014. Look where we are now. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better program. Come, you know, full circle 2018, but 1 month till graduation. So I'm not sure what can be done at this point. But the same thing for IB next year.
No, I think it's done for this year at the end of the day, Julie.
I think one important thing to also remember here is, and as a formerly high-achieving, overachieving student, although not valedictorian or salutatorian for that matter, our GPAs were not weighted. I think there's also an important kind of reality check that we also need to take into account here too. And so often high school students become so fixated on rankings, and that frankly scares me a little bit. And I think it's important to remember, and I understand when you're in it, and applying for colleges is so competitive right now, so I fully get it. But I also think as adults in the community, how important it is to remind students that high school ranking, and for that matter, college ranking, are one piece of data. And what you do outside of the classroom, and if you get a B or a minus, instead of an A plus or an A, it's not the end of the world, and that's not going to make or break your future career. And so I think we absolutely need to, either as a board or within the administration, look at making the formulas more equitable and at least more fair to really validate the level of effort and the level of academic excellence of all students and all options that are presented to students. But I also think as adults in the community, we also need to make sure that students are aware of the realities and the future implications or not implications of high school rankings. So I understand why it's so heated. I've been there. It wasn't all that long ago. But I do think a little bit of a reality check is important here. That said, I do think hearing from the students tonight and the passion that they brought on both sides, the arguments that they brought was absolutely phenomenal. And so therefore, when a student can do that, they're set in life no matter what their high school rank is. And so I appreciate hearing the passion and the well thought out arguments that all of the students tonight presented.
Okay, well, we're going to move on from this topic, or actually, no, we have to approve the, we didn't vote yet. Thank you, Bruce.
We can forget the vote, no one can register tomorrow.
Well, we don't want that.
No.
We don't want that to happen. So I think we've had a motion, so all in favor of approving the high school program of studies, thanks to, yep, okay, unanimous, right, okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds, your baby has been delivered. And now the next is approval of the Food Service Workers Collective Bargaining Contract Agreement. I don't know if the chair of the Negotiations Committee has anything to say about this, but if you do.
Yeah, first I'll move to approve it. So
okay, there. Mr. Lyons, seconded by
real quick, you know,
Mr. Meek.
I reported earlier that we had finished, this was the last of our contracts to be negotiated. We had settled that some time back. The union approved it in March, took a while for it to get here. Basically, 4-year contract, partially retroactive, runs to June 30, 2020. Most of the provisions are fairly standard. The significant difference is that we provided a somewhat higher rate of pay increase in exchange for an agreement for the union to allow us to subcontract work in the future. We use the exact same provision that we have in the custodian's contract so that we cannot lay anybody off. We can only subcontract based on attrition, so as people retire or quit or whatever, we can gradually go to private contracting on this contract, as we have done with the custodians. Custodian contract, we're now saving approximately $1 million a year based on the subcontracting. And we hope that we'll be able to get savings here, as well as providing us with some additional flexibility in providing food services. And this was approved by the union, and I urge its approval by the board.
Okay. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Next, we are going to approve a series of standard mandated policies that were not in our policy book. I don't know if Ms. Keys, as Chair of Policy Committee, you want to speak about this at all, or if
Sure, I'll add a quick comment. We had a full lengthy discussion during our last Board of Ed meeting in regards to these policies, fully vetted through the Policy Committee. I want to thank the Policy Committee for working through these, as well as Dr. Costanzo. You know, I have to say, when we first started and we ended up having the CABE audit, I thought, wow, what a daunting task for us. There are a lot of state mandated policies that we really need to work on, but I feel as a committee, we've really kind of delved in and really have worked on these policies, as well as getting feedback. For example, Patty Foley, Yvette, Ralph, Ken Hughes, Anthony Shannon, just to get advice as well as legal advice on some of these policies, just to make sure that we've crossed our T's and dotted our I's. And I feel that we've done so with the policies that have been submitted for tonight for approval.
Okay. Yes?
Yeah, I just have a small question.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, this is a lot of backup, okay, to follow. What we have in our school system an immunization waiver policy. Do we have students that have waived?
I don't know, Frank.
I don't
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Immunization?
I don't think so. You know, the blue form?
No, I know which one.
But you can do it for medical.
You can?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I believe that's state.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'd like to know, what kind of policy it is.
I think this is controlled by state law, actually,
Yes.
but we can check on that.
No big deal, I was just
Yeah.
curious. It's no big deal.
But I don't think any of that is in this.
Right.
Well, it is somewhere, that's why it came up. It's somewhere in
In
here.
one of these.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can't find it.
But it's not in A through I, is what I'm saying.
Correct. No.
No. No, it's part of, I'm sorry, it's, I think it's actually part of D, homeless students policy. I think so.
Saying that, but.
They have to get one they come into the school
Right, the blue form.
over the course of time.
But I also believe there's a waiver that they can also get, and I'm curious about what criteria are used for the waiver.
I believe it's a religious waiver.
Okay.
But I'll check.
Thank you. As someone who used to go crazy in the classroom dealing with this stuff with young kids, it's...
Okay.
We're
So,
motion to.
I'll make a motion to approve
yes.
item
thank
5.
you. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Brian. Seconded by Ms. Keys. All in favor? 7-0. I guess Ms. Lemieux has stepped out of the room for a second.
Thank you, everybody, for approving these.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you for your hard work.
Okay, now I would, Brian?
I'll make a motion to table item 6 and 7.
Okay. A motion has been made by Mr. Meek to table items 6 and 7.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lyons. All in favor of tabling this motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 2/3. So this will be tabled. Oh, no, sorry.
Slow down.
It's
You
the
need
majority.
the rest of the vote.
Yeah. What's that?
I'm abstaining.
Ask for the no's.
You're
or
abstaining.
abstention.
Okay, sorry. So 6 in favor, 1 abstention. Out of the 7 of us that are currently here. Okay, then the chairman, yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt.
What's that? Okay, the chairman will entertain a motion to add an item to the agenda. And this is
Two items.
2 items, actually. This is proposals that are coming from the Gifted Education Study Committee. And there are 2 aspects to this. One is student identification procedure, and second is qualifications of teachers of the gifted. So I had asked for the language to be modified, but it doesn't look like what I have in front of me is.
No, you would need to modify it now.
Okay.
As, you know.
That's what I thought. So,
Yvette, could you come up, please, for questions?
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, you got to vote on it.
We need 2/3 vote.
right, to add something, to suspend the rules and add to the agenda.
So I'll make a motion.
Yes.
To suspend the rules, to add the item on gifted and education study to the agenda.
Yes. Okay.
So 2 items?
Yes,
Just
2
one,
parts.
just-
The
okay.
field trip too.
Okay, both of them. I'll suspend the rules to add both items to the agenda.
And
Second.
We have approval of proposals for gifted education, which there are 2 parts to, and then
then
we
the
have
field
the field trip.
Yeah, field trip.
Okay.
so your motion is all 3,
There are 2.
Two.
It's 2. There are 2 parts to the first.
which includes the field trip?
No.
No.
It's
We have
the,
field
for the approvals from proposals from the committee, which part 1 is the identification, and 2 is qualifications for the teachers.
Okay.
And then that's 1,
Okay.
part A and B. And then part 2, the item 2 is the field trip to the national competition for the Innovation Convention.
Okay.
Okay? So that was proposed by Mr. Kimmel, and I believe seconded
by Barbara.
By Barbara. Okay, fine.
And a vote.
And all in favor?
2/3.
So it's unanimous, so we have added the item to the agenda. So now, I need approval, or motion, yes, Mr. Kimmel? Dr. Kimmel?
I'd like to move the resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools that the Board of Education approves the proposals of the Gifted Education Study Committee regarding student identification procedures, qualification of the teachers of the gifted. I would speak to it, but we have Yvette up there already. Just briefly, if I may, as the committee chair, there's 3 components to the GT, the Gifted and Talent redesign. This is one proponent. The other is the elementary school redesign. The other is the middle school redesign. here is something we need to move on quickly, and it's also something I think, from the past discussions, it would seem that we're pretty much in agreement with most of this part of it. This is almost a standalone part of it that we would do anyway. So I think the sooner we can do it, the better. Mr. Barbish raised two issues today, one about certification, which I think is, I don't know if you had a chance to see, Mike, that the superintendent responded. The issue is a master's degree or not a master's degree, not necessarily. Got to be a certified teacher in Connecticut, but it doesn't matter what kind, you just have to have the master's degree in gifted education. On the other issue about paying for the PD, I think if we would like, we would just put a phrase in here. I'm not sure how you all do it, but on the training part, requirement by 12 graduates, for those who are working in this G&T program already, who do not have the master's degree.
Right.
That's the issue that you raised. Good question. They would have to take the 12 credits, and according to Dr. Adamowski's email, I think if we would, if I'm wrong, but I would just, by completing 12 graduate credits of gifted and talented education, comma, paid for by Norwalk Public Schools, comma, offer that would solve the issue, if that is indeed our policy.
Good point.
Yes, this is our practice. We have a budget in the talent office for a variety of things that we pay for existing staff to retrain them to do new jobs or meet certain qualifications that are required. The IB is a good example. College board courses, you have to be trained, and then we have the areas of shortage as well.
So I think, Bruce, you made
okay.
Your proposal to modify, because I think there are two things I think this should be modified in this, is the first one where it says Connecticut State Teaching License 4, and then it cites grades. Can we just say teaching license, strike 4 grades?
I think you want to say any Connecticut State teaching license.
Okay.
And a master's degree in the teaching of gifted.
And then just strike this 4 grades.
Right, exactly.
That's correct. So we can do that. And then the second one, Bruce,
paid for by Norwalk Public Schools.
Maybe have an expedited requirement by completing 12 graduated credits in G&T education. And they're paid for by Norwalk Public Schools. Okay.
Could I ask one quick question about that?
Of course.
So, when Norwalk Public Schools pays for additional program expensive PD, like an example like this, does that staff, do they sign something, do they commit to teaching X number of years so that we are able to retain that?
Yes, we have
brain power?
We have a 3-year agreement.
Okay.
This is almost like the sabbatical.
Perfect.
You have to stay in the district for 3 years after the completion of training, or you have to pay back pro rata. So let's say you stayed 2 years, you have to pay back pro rata the 1 year.
Right, thank you.
So we have a standard agreement. We have a number of people covered under that currently.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any discussion about this? Or are we ready to vote? Or Yvette, do you want to?
I guess there's one question I have. I just wondered if Mr. Valancisi and Ms. Gorovich have decided on a storage for the portfolios, a program or a procedure for that.
Right now, the portfolios will be kept hard copy, as they have been in years past. As we move to the new assessment, that is kept online, and it's covered through all of the requirements of any online assessment that we are engaging in. Is that?
Okay. Yes, Mr.
I'm sorry, I know it's getting late.
I was speaking specifically to the Naglieri. We're moving to the Naglieri assessment, which is an online assessment, and those are kept in the Naglieri test assessment.
And I thought we also were developing a portfolio of their schoolwork to be part of the assessment, and that was going to be made digital.
And right now, that will be held hard copy as student work is being held. Mm-hmm. And as we move forward into digital portfolios, there are confidentiality issues that we'll have to address.
Okay.
She answered my question.
Okay, so I think we have, we've added it to the agenda. We have a motion to approve, or we have a vote to approve these two parts. Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, and that includes the field trip approval as well.
Thank you very much.
Before, I think
Yes,
if you
sir.
could give us a 2-second update. The board was corresponding by email about this, and you and I had corresponded, just in terms of, we unfortunately have been short 2 middle school AT teachers this year, and we thought we had hired, and then things, one woman didn't realize what her commute was going to be like, so unfortunately decided not to proceed with us. But could you just tell us kind of where
Sure.
things stand right now? I know we're right at the end of the school year, but some of these kids really have not gotten what they should have this year.
So we are still in the quarterly middle school design. So for Nathan Hale, it was math. A math leave of absence substitute was identified approximately 3 weeks ago. He was hired. He is working with the students. In addition to his math certification, he does have several years teaching experience, and specifically he had 2 years of experience working with enrichment classes and advanced math honors classes at Stanford. I spoke to Principal Sacchi yesterday and confirmed that the program was proceeding and the students were being served, and he was pleased with this interim plan. We, of course, are advertising and will very aggressively recruit under the new board policy of qualified teachers of the gifted. For PONUS, we originally identified and recruited a candidate with a master's in gifted education from UConn. She was originally not available because she is also the department's teaching assistant at UConn and was only available part-time. We were combining her work with one of our AT teachers who was from the elementary school and was supporting the 6th grade students. She did work for us 2 days and then decided that her commute was just too much. Yesterday, I met with another candidate who is prepared to accept the position effective May 21st. She has several years of teaching experience, has 2 years as a teacher of gifted education and the talented in Darien, and 1 year as a tag teacher, talented and gifted teacher in New Haven. Met with her today, and she's ready to sign and start on Monday. So both teachers are interested in making longer-term commitments to the district. This leave of absence substitute situation gives us a perfect opportunity to look at their performance while we continue a broader search aggressively to fill the vacancies for 2018-19.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I might just ask you one more question about,
Yes.
since, you know, we haven't finalized what AT redesign is going to look like for next year. You know, and middle school's had a very established program. You know, we're winding down the school year. We haven't, you know, we've got these 2 interims now that we can evaluate in the next month. I know there have been one proposal to kind of shift some of those resources to elementary. I'm not sure this board all is in favor of that. I guess we're just going to do that. I mean, we'll have to approve middle school or AT, what the new AT program is going to like. We'll have a big meeting, I guess, this Thursday. I don't know if we're going to approve anything per se, but I know there are many parents and board members who are wondering what middle school AT is going to look like. And it has been an important program for a certain group of our students, and I know a lot of families are very concerned that this program really changes dramatically. You know, they have some issues with that and staying in our system.
As we're
So we have a concern that we have enough time to implement this well,
Yeah,
right?
no, I bet.
So, you know, my understanding is the joint committee meeting on Thursday. My further understanding is that you're going to keep working on this until the curriculum committee has recommendations to the board in June. That is really the last point in time in terms of having any kind of a program for next year. And so we're hoping that you will work with the committee's recommendations and provide some clear direction on this at your June meeting.
We've also looked very, very carefully at caseloads, particularly at the elementary school. So we do believe that on Thursday we'll be in a better position to discuss effective use of our 8 teachers that may be able to support the goal of a full-time teacher at or as close to a full-time teacher at each of the 4 middle schools, while still serving the elementary school children.
I mean, I think that's going to be really important.
Yeah, just to add to that, that's one of the, I said there were 3 components. We dealt with one of them a few minutes ago. We have the elementary, and we have the middle school. And what's different about those 2, they're not standing alone. There are staffing issues that have to be worked out. From everyone I've talked to, they like what's been proposed on paper. They've liked the discussion. They like the direction we're going in, but they want to know about staffing. That's the issue, because without staffing, nothing goes anywhere. And so that is I think the only as far as I'm concerned, the only outstanding, well, let me put it this way, if there are many outstanding questions, to me, that's the one that is most important. And we would have to have a very clear answer on that. And as soon as if we do it at the end of Thursday's meeting, so be it. We may or may not decide it's ready to go to the full board in June, or we can schedule a special meeting of the, if necessary, a special meeting or a regular meeting of the curriculum committee. But we have, I think, one major question left, and that's it.
I'm not sure that's entirely the case.
Well, the pool, if the pull out, if you're wondering about the pull outs, the question has been asked a dozen times, at least, and it's been answered a dozen times at least, but for some reason there's some reservations about believing the answers.
I think it has to do with the amount of time that the AT students will spend with their AT teachers. That's really, and that goes back to the staffing and the scheduling.
Yeah.
But we, at the elementary level, for instance, we already only have an hour and a half every 6 school days. If that decreases in terms of interactive time with the AT teachers, I would find it difficult to approve.
Through grouping, doing a better job of grouping, we believe we can sustain or even increase the amount of contact hours at the elementary school while still serving the middle school with the 8 teachers. It's a huge investment. It needs to be turned and fine-tuned, and I believe that we can get very close to that on Thursday.
And we need to be assigning teachers to students, not to schools, because the number of students does vary school to school. And, even despite our best efforts to have a broader, more inclusive program, we are going to have variation among schools, just based upon the variation in size of the schools. So I think this, as with other aspects of middle school redesign, like languages, we have to learn to share between and among schools and follow the students wherever they are.
I think there's one last item that we have discussed before, the curriculum compacting and the professional development and differentiation. If we're actually going to do the ability grouping, that will be a key piece to making it a successful program.
The cluster grouping.
Yes.
I'm hoping that's the case, that we will find a way to do that. I think that one of the reasons, or at least this is a theory, that the achievement of our gifted students is flat is because there's just not enough engagement at their level, right? They're gifted all the time. You can't just pull them out a couple times a week and expect that their needs are going to be met. So I think the pullout is one component of this, but there are others, and I think we learned a lot during the study about the others.
Okay, well, we have plenty of time to discuss this on Thursday.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yvette, for everything, being here. We will move on to information and reports. I don't know, Frank, you want to get up and just to speak briefly about the CABE audit and state mandated policies?
Yeah, Frank, before Frank, if you can come up, but this is just kind of a continuation of what we're still doing in our mandated policies. But we went through and discussed it through policy and approved it to come to the full board, but it's physical restraint and seclusion, preschool students and disabilities, drug and alcohol testing for bus drivers, weapons, and dangerous instruments. And we also had feedback from some key players in central office and helping us kind of, it's already state mandated, we've worked on it, but also helping us to craft these policies.
Yep, that's exactly right. So we're into the second bucket of state mandated policies. They're here in your packet tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I know Bruce had raised a question in email and had figured out that the word or the set of words in that one policy is not actually a word. So I will notify CABE. I will notify CABE because they, use this as a model across the state.
It caught my eye. If you look at this stuff, the print is very small. I have no idea how I saw it, but there's no such word. Somewhere it said psychopharmacologic, and it should have meant what it should have meant, pharmacologic. But when I went back and I looked under definitions and in a few other places, the correct word is there. But there is the incorrect word, and I can just imagine the most fantastic lawsuit under the sun because somebody read that thing incorrectly. I wasn't in a position to find out where it is. Maybe I don't know, but it's there somewhere.
That's got to be the word of the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good eyes, Bruce. I'll tell you.
It's one thing I.
Yes, Barbara.
I'm going to say them to be a compliment.
I'm trying to pull it up in front of me, but in the policy regarding restraint and seclusion for special education students, in section 8, I think it's B2, there was a list of ways that could be communicated home that a restraint had happened. And it seemed from my reading that it was predominantly suggesting that a note delivered by the student home would be the primary communication. And I'm concerned that that's not reliable. And I think we should consider making it policy to have an email or phone to have a direct contact with confirmation of some sort, because certainly I, as a parent, would want to know that as quickly as possible and as reliably as possible.
That's something the policy committee would have to take up. It's not for us to take up.
It was in the packet, so I figured it was open season.
Barbara, did you say it was on a form after the policy?
I think it's in the policy, actually.
In the policy?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's section 8 in Roman numerals B2. I'm sorry, I can't tell you the page at the moment.
Okay.
So anything more?
One short yes or no question.
Yes, Bruce.
When this particular policy, the seclusion and physical force, is something where there's almost every day there's some kind of incident somewhere where you find yourself in these very complicated situations. Do we undergo a regular training?
We do.
We do.
Especially on the seclusion thing, because I know my own experience, a number of teachers who got in trouble because they just did not understand the difference between discipline and safety. They didn't make a decision, and it cost someone their career. So you got to make sure the training takes place.
Yvette and I have actually been working on a couple of individual cases at a couple of elementary schools just this spring that have really, sprung up, and we've had to make sure that staff are adequately prepared to know how to restrain. And
maybe that, because I know you worked on this with us in this policy. Do you want to come up with Frank as well if you want to add anything to that?
See, it is worth staying to the end of the meeting.
The district currently uses a protocol called TMT. We've had one of our BCBAs trained and was doing this rollout training. Only someone who is trained and certified should be engaging in any physical contact to protect a child or another adult or another child, or serious destruction of property. Those people need to be retrained. It's a half-day training regularly. We have found through our research that there are other protocols that are more school-friendly, and we're going to be training 11 staff members over the summer to become nationally train the trainer model, so that we will have 11 staff members that can train or retrain on appropriate procedures and certify, so they'll always be on call. New staff member comes in or a new need identified, we can respond to it within a week or less. And we are looking at retraining all of the administrators as well, encouraging the administrators to be part of that team of 11 to do the turnkey training.
Yvette, is the training yearly?
The first training is good for 18 months.
Okay.
And then thereafter, updates.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions at all?
Okay, so
Thank you.
we'll carry on.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks.
Um, Tom, ready to give us our monthly financial report? Hmm?
Okay, kind of unremarkable financial report tonight. It's pretty much the same as what I presented last month. At this point, we're 83% of the way through the fiscal year, 80% of the way through the school year, and have expended 72.5% of the budget, so we're on track. There's really nothing terribly remarkable. I've reported in the past substitute expenses. Year-to-date substitute expenses are down compared to last year by about $458,000. The special ed accounts that we monitor in the contractual services account and out-of-district tuition account are also running on budget and are looking good. We do have some savings in electricity as a result of rebidding our electricity early in the fiscal year, and that's really about it. So we're on track, to end the year without any sort of major budget problems.
Great job, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
I would say that's down 23% on substitute expenditures.
That's terrific.
That's more than just absence, that's controls.
Good.
Congratulations.
Okay. And now we will move on to committee and representative reports. We can start at your end, Barbara.
This has been a less than active month for me due to some family situations, but I am proud of the work of our Norwalk Public Schools students at the art show this evening and the teachers that brought the creativity out of them. So that's what I have to report.
Okay. Dr. Kimmel?
Oh, well, we mentioned before, Thursday there'll be a joint committee meeting. The whole board is invited. Joint meeting with the Curriculum Instruction Committee and the Special Ed Task Force beginning at 7 o'clock. We're hoping to finish up about 9. Afterwards, beginning immediately following the joint meeting, there will be a special meeting of the Curriculum Instruction Committee to consider the new science curriculum, which is from CREC. It's developed. It's an excellent proposal, and we've had the backup at the committee level, and we're looking forward to getting that to the board as soon as possible. And so we will be discussing that. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Ms. Keys?
Yes. Next policy meeting is June 3rd, and we will be working on the additional 5 mandated policies that we'll be working on.
Well done. Mr. Meek?
Finance will meet on June 14th with a goal of reconciling the budget to forward for recommendation for the June 19th full board business meeting. We did cancel last month's meeting, a variety of reasons, but staff just wasn't ready to have it laid out, and neither were we.
That's also why I believe why we moved on the school calendar, as it has a budgetary impact of day 182. So that'll be June 14th with the possibility of meeting slightly earlier, depending on when staff's ready. And we may meet earlier than that to allow for more time to prepare for the packets that would go out the very next day, June 15th. Right. So that only being less than 24 hours, we may need to give them that consideration, in which case I would pull the trigger and have a meeting a little bit earlier. But they're still working on some things. Kristen's actually probably still working right now. She was an hour ago. So there's still stuff to do. Thanks.
Okay. On the facilities committee, we've been chugging along. As anyone who reads the press would know, we did get sidetracked with the approval of one of our projects, but we're happy to report that it is now back on track. And we actually got some incremental funding, and it all happened kind of very quickly. So this is the first time as a board we're talking about it, but you know, there were, based on the original design development estimates that were calculated for each of our first projects, Columbus at Ely and Ponus Ridge K8. Each different engineering companies were hired for each to do the development, design development cost estimates. And in both schools, they came in higher than what had been funded by the city, although they actually came in pretty much where our original estimates had been, which we had to kind of adjust for the approval process. Anyway, that's now happily behind us, and we have incremental funding that is going to let us do these projects in the manner in which we envisioned. And we are going to do a little incremental funding for some of the repair work that needs to be done at Norwalk High School. And the funding for Jefferson School will come in a year later than planned, but there's a lot of work we can do in advance, and those students will be, you know, many of them will be moving to the new Ponus school, and we might even be able to run the existing school for a brief period of time. In the portables, we're still kind of working on that timeline. So there are a lot of moving pieces, but all in, we're still on track to open Columbus at Ely and to have the new space at Ponus, the K-5 portion, pre-K-5 portion of Ponus up and running by September 2020. So, you know, we're plugging along. I spent part of a day at Cranberry to look at kind of what work could be done there, and the electrical system there, which we've heard many times about, but there's been some debate as to what's going on there. But after having been there with Bill Hodel and George Feck, it was very clear that there's a lot more going on there than we really realize. So we're working on that now, and I think we're going to start the first move with the electric company to get them to beef up the service. That'll all take some time, but we're going to get the wheels in motion. So I think facilities is actually very busy at the moment. In addition, I have an email drafted to the board, which I have yet to send, but in kind of the wellness health area, because of the food service contract we just approved and state law, we actually had to put our food service provider, we had to put that contract back out for bid. We got three offers. We're doing this on a very short time frame. We would never have done it this way, but our hand was forced by state regs. And we did last week, we're interviewing 3 different companies that were all actually very, very different, including our current provider, Whitson's. And we're working on kind of evaluating their differences, and the committee is formulating a recommendation to the superintendent, and then eventually they will come to the board. So that also has been quite time-consuming and unexpected, but it's moving along. So I think that's...
But you got that great recipe out of it.
I did get a great beet hummus recipe from yeah. It smelled, it was bright purple. You're obviously not on Facebook because you didn't see the picture I posted. Obviously, it was this beautiful bright purple color, and it smelled heavenly. And they passed out recipes, and that was compliments of a company that Compass, but what's the I forget. Chartwell, thank you. And they provide service to a lot of our neighboring school districts. So anyway, that was quite interesting, so I did get something out of that. And I don't know, negotiations, where are we, Mr.?
We're done.
We're done.
We're done?
No contracts to work on until maybe late in the year. We may be in startup phases for a couple of more, but we've got a nice 6 or 8 month gap here.
Vacation.
Yeah, perfect time.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see, special ed is having our meeting with curriculum on Thursday, which I'm excited for. And I don't think that I have any new updates other than that.
Okay, great.
I got a haircut.
You did.
Ms. Corbett?
The committee chair spoke for the 2 committees I'm on. Do you want me to hit off any?
You can go on board member announcements,
All right,
and we'll
right
do
on.
the round trip.
So I think yesterday I started off my morning reading to 2 classrooms at Tracy Elementary, a kindergarten and a 1st grade classroom. And it was such a lovely reminder of why we do this work. And so I thoroughly enjoyed, I read to my toddler all the time, but mostly board books. So it was really nice to read books with actual words in them and not have someone ripping my pages in front of me. And so it was a great reminder of why we do this work and the enthusiasm that the students shared. They were really good at roaring like bears for me. So it was great, and I had the chance just a little bit to walk around Tracy Elementary a little bit and talk with the principal a little bit and do mini observing of classrooms as I was walking down the halls, and just stayed for a couple extra minutes while I was putting my jacket on. So it was just a lovely experience, and they were great, enthusiastic kids. So it's great.
Okay, great. No?
I got nothing.
Nothing? Okay. No? I can't think of anything at this hour, so I'll pass. Mr. Meek?
I would just say Adam's family was awesome, and
Yes, right.
and good luck to our finalists in Michigan. I know you all went home, and hopefully we do so too.
I'm going to echo Brian. Adam's Family and Hairspray. And they were, fantastic shows, as always.
Yeah, I like Hairspray too.
I like the Addams Family.
I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I forgot a lot about it. I was thinking about it, the discussion we had earlier with NCC and versus the high school and the credits and everything. And I just finished up today, all my grades. And among the courses I teach there is Principles of Sociology course, which is 1 term. In high school, it's generally an entire year using the same book. It's not the same. You've got to figure that into the calculation somehow. A 700-page textbook completed in 15 weeks is something college students do. Not many high school students are up to it, and I'm sure we have kids who are up to it, and they should be rewarded in a fair and equitable way. It's much different.
Glad you raised that. I was thinking the same thing. Calculus.
Yeah.
12 weeks versus a year.
Okay. Barbara, anything? Okay, well then, we now will move on to the approval of minutes. We'll start with the April 17th meeting. Do I have a motion? Ms. Keys, second. Ms. Lemieux. Any changes, corrections for the April 17th meeting? Okay, all in favor? Unanimously approved. And for May 1st, minutes for May 1st. Ms. Keys makes motion, Ms. Lemieux seconds. Any corrections? Yep.
Sorry, ooh, hands flying, I don't know. Just the minor note, the end time seems inconsistent. It says we were in executive session for 15 minutes, but ending at 9:35. I know we were well past 10 minutes.
No, and I have to look in my phone.
Sadly, we were there for much longer.
I sent a message.
10:49.
I want to say, what was that?
10:49
Yeah.
was what I noted.
That's what I think, 10:49.
That sounds right.
That we
I
came
have
out.
a photographic memory. If I write it, I remember it.
So it's early right now.
It was close to 11.
Wow, look at this.
And then I'm going to keep it for 20 years.
Okay, so we'll make that correction, please.
I have additional
Oh,
corrections.
yes, please proceed.
Twice, it says Miss Meyer Mitchell Keys moved, both on the water safety and teacher appreciation. Yeah, I know.
We'll split it.
Because I need more names. I don't have enough.
That's like Julie Sarah.
I like
We're just all getting combined.
That was the best. Okay, so could we?
There's more.
Oh, there's more?
Sorry.
Okay. More
On
corrections.
page 4, public is misspelled, it has a 9 in it. In the public comment, Megan Hopkins spoke about AT scheduling at Roten, and I think that was key to the commentary. And in Mary Orden's commentary, I think the minutes neglected to leave the words "the teachers" out of one of the phrases, which I don't have in front of me. But if you read Mary Orden's short paragraph, you will see that there is a sentence that does not have a subject. That's it.
Okay. Motion to approve, or no, we do have a motion. All in favor? Okay, with corrections. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Ready.
Ms. Keys, Ms. Corbett, all in favor? And at 10:04, we call it a night. Thank you, everyone, for your time.